Taubenberger. I'm the chair of the Aging Committee, and I would like to welcome you to the first ever Aging Committee hearing. I'm very honored that Council President Clark appointed me to this position. I'm also very honored that I have a majority of our members here present. To my left is Councilman Green, also co-chairman of this committee, and also to my right is Councilman Alan Dom. And we're looking forward to hearing the testimony here. And I'm going to have the clerk call read out the resolution title, and then I'll have some opening comments as well, and I know my colleagues might as well. Clerk, please read the title of the resolution.
Resolution number 160646, resolution authorizing the Committee on Aging to conduct public hearings regarding financial abuse of senior citizens in Philadelphia.
I think it's important that we start off with this because I think the more people know about this sort of abuse that is going on, the better. I'm anxious to hear what law enforcement can do, and in some cases they can't do much, but I think the important thing is that we can educate seniors and folks that deal with seniors on the seriousness of this crime and how commonplace it is as well, and how easily people sometimes fall in the trap. So hearing the comments from the AARP and the police and the district attorney's office is very, very good. And of course, my colleagues will have some questions and comments as well. The more we can talk about it, I think the better we all are served. And it is important here today to discover what is happening, with senior fraud. What is happening on the front lines, so we can talk about it and educate all about the problems with it. Councilman Green?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a pleasure to be here at this committee, as Committee on Aging. I'm glad that we as a body decided to put together this committee. It's also an honor to serve as vice chair. And as we are in the holiday season, I thought it was very important, and I think the entire committee thought it was very important to have this hearing at this time. During the holiday season, there are a lot of requests for gifts and giving, and I know having served as the board chair of Center in the Park, and I believe members of the Center in the Park are listening and participating in today's hearing. As board chair of Center in the Park, which is a seasoned citizen facility here in the city of Philadelphia in Germantown, I know a number of seniors, a lot of our members have gotten involved in financial fraud over the years, especially during the holiday time when a number of people are reaching out and asking for gifts and other type of donations during the holiday season. And I think seniors can be more prone to those type of fraud opportunities in this time of the year. So it's very important to have this hearing. It's also important that we use this opportunity to educate people regarding the work that a lot of our public safety organizations, from the police department, district attorney's office, as well as other organizations like AARP, that are trying to inform and educate people regarding the issues regarding financial fraud. So I'm glad to be here for this hearing. I'm glad this is the start of this committee. Got a lot of great things that we as a committee can do going forward to help some of the more vulnerable people of our population that have done such great work in our city, state, and nation.
Councilman Dom?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning. I just have a very quick statement. On these frauds, I mean, think about it, it's not just with seniors. Think of all the fraud that goes on in the financial world, from Michael Milken back in the 80s to, was it Bernie Madoff recently? Yeah. It goes on everywhere. In fact, when I used to be in the security business, 78% of all theft actually is internal. But my adage is the following: if it's too good to be true, it usually is. And you just have to keep your eyes open. And so many people think they're going to hit a home run. Doesn't happen. So that's my only comment on this. Thank you.
We're about to begin, and I want to also thank everyone that is here today, because together we can do some really good things about this very terrible situation. Councilwoman Gim is on her way, and Councilwoman Parker cannot make today's hearings, but she and I talked this morning, and I will be briefing her later in the week in regards to what happened here, and of course the notes of testimony. The exact things that you're saying will be available to all to review. Will the clerk please call the first panel?
George Mosey, Captain Francis Healy, Lydia Hernandez.
And you can begin whenever you're set. Lydia, we can start with you if you're prepared, or whoever. Oh.
Good morning, Councilman Taubenberger
Thank
and
you.
members of the committee. I am Lidia Hernandez-Velez, Deputy Managing Director for Aging. Thank you to the members of the Committee on Aging for engaging in an important conversation regarding one of the challenges facing older Philadelphia residents. Financial abuse of the elders of our community is a great concern to the Aging Network. Time and time again, there are frustrating stories of the intentional abuse of the trust and respect of our elders at a time when they are vulnerable, dependent, and significantly challenged by constricted resources. The Mayor's Commission on Aging, Information and Referral receives inquiries every day regarding services and assistance to address pressing issues faced by our elder residents. The majority of those inquiries relate to obtaining information on benefits that will enable residents to remain in their homes, receive benefits such as Social Security, property tax, and rental rebates, or obtaining the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program support. There are also inquiries regarding real estate title issues, guardianship concerns, and misappropriation of resources. Our office then makes referrals to the appropriate Aging Network office to ensure that our residents obtain the best assistance to address their concerns. This results in acknowledging that some of our residents do not have the information they need to make decisions that will promote their dignity and safety they so deserve. The network of elder-focused organizations works from the premise that there is no wrong door. Some elders face the issue of financial abuse because of language isolation, declining cognitive capacity, administrative delays, or inability to connect with the services that will ensure their safety. In partnership with the Philadelphia Corporation for Aging, the Center for Advocacy for the Rights and Interests of the Elderly, CARI as it is known, the Senior Law Project, Community Legal Services, and other organizations, there is a focus on ensuring that connection with the right partner will be made. Thank you for the opportunity to participate in this hearing, and I am ready to collaborate in whatever way will ensure the dignity and safety of our residents. I will respond to any questions that you might have.
Well, maybe what we'll do is we'll hear from the whole panel, and then we'll ask some questions.
Good morning, and thank you, Chairman Taubenberger and council members, for inviting the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office to testify. I'm George Mosey, the first assistant in the District Attorney's Office. Our economic and cybercrime and community engagement units are on the forefront lines of prosecuting economic crimes where our elderly are victims. We also work to raise their awareness about how to reduce the chances of becoming a victim. In the past 2 years, the Economic and Cybercrime Unit has had 3 significant prosecutions involving elderly victims. There was a funeral director who stole over $300,000 from an elderly neighbor's credit card. Another offender took advantage of an elderly widower by becoming his friend and handyman, gained access to his checking account, and withdrew large amounts of cash. And there was a contractor who targeted 4 separate seniors in scams. I'm happy to say that each of those defendants was successfully prosecuted. We do have several active investigations involving cases where seniors have been the victims of economic crimes. They center on the illegal use of a power of attorney. There are also foreclosure rescue scams, financial fraud, and house stealing by an individual who in fact had done that before. With regard to forged deed owner victims over the age of 60, we currently have an open investigation involving approximately 50 properties where 9 of the victims are over the age of 60. The elder in those situations may not be the named owner of the stolen property, but may be an heir who didn't raise an estate or transfer the title into the new lawful owner's name. In 2014, a series of changes were made to our state laws related to powers of attorney. The original version of the legislation would have permitted commingling of funds between an individual and his or her attorney. But we were able to amend the language to the bill to ensure that most instances of commingling are not permitted. knowing that without the change, we might likely see more elderly victims. Preventing economic crimes against the elderly is critical. To that end, our community engagement unit actively works with seniors to teach them to protect themselves against scams and to be smart with their financial safety. We have made more than 30 visits to churches as well as community and senior centers to deliver a targeted presentation about how seniors can protect themselves from scam artists in person and on the phone, and also what to look out for online. The presentation also addresses identity theft, phone scams, including one that says their grandchild has been arrested and they need bail money, surveys to collect Social Security and financial data, and letters claiming the senior has won the lottery but needs to pay their taxes to retrieve the winnings. The response and interest about the outreach has been excellent. There's a thirst for this kind of information in our city, and the more individuals we can talk to, the greater the likelihood that we will have prevented some economic crimes is even greater. Again, thank you for the opportunity to join you here today, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Mosey. And I also understand this is your last testimony?
Unless you guys call me tomorrow.
Well, we may call you, well, no, we don't want to bother you tomorrow, but what I do want to say, thank you very, very much for your service, your dedication to the people of Philadelphia and the job you've done. It is something that a lot of my colleagues have talked about, and your service is greatly appreciated by this chairman, and I know by all members of council.
It's been a pleasure and honor to work with this body.
Yeah, I was going to say a similar point. George, you've done a phenomenal work in District Attorney's Office. You've done great work there for a number of years. During my brief stint there, you were also supportive of me. Somehow you kept all of your hair, but I lost mine in that time period. But you've been a great prosecutor and have mentored countless prosecutors who have really made an impact in the city of Philadelphia. So thank you for your service.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mosey, if you have any statements on helping gentlemen like myself and Councilman Green keep their hair, we would like to know it.
A lot of it is camouflage.
Captain?
Yes, sir. Good morning, Chairman Taubenberger and other members of the Committee on Aging. My name is Francis Healy, and I'm the Special Advisor to Commissioner Ross. Seated with me, behind me, is Captain Mark Bergman, the Commanding Officer of the Department's Special Victims Unit. On behalf of the Commissioner, thank you for allowing the Police Department to participate in this hearing regarding Resolution 160646. The Philadelphia Police Department is keenly aware of the susceptibility of senior citizens to victimization by fraudsters. As you may know, the Special Victims Unit is a primary investigative unit for crimes against the elderly, and this is the reason why I've asked Captain Bergman to attend today's hearing with me. To enhance the Special Victim Unit's ability to better impact this special population, the SVU maintains a working relationship with Philadelphia Corporation on Aging, the Center for Advocacy for the Rights and Interests of the Elderly, and other community groups concerned with issues of the aged. These groups are encouraged to report suspected crimes against the elderly directly to the Special Victims Unit. As background, currently the Special Victims Unit assigns all cases of crimes against the elderly to its Special Investigations Unit, the SIU. The SIU works closely with the District Attorney's Office, Homeland Security, and other law enforcement agencies to protect seniors who are the victims of fraud, and the supervisors of the SIU regularly meet with the Philadelphia Corporation of Aging and other community groups to address concerns of the elderly. Additionally, personnel from the Special Victims Unit participate in seminars, community fairs, and other forums, just as the DA's office does, in an effort to educate the elderly about the various types of frauds and scams to guard against. In this regard, the Philadelphia Police Department fully concurs with the provisions in this resolution that state that education and awareness can go a long way towards reducing instances of financial abuse. While education and awareness are the frontline defense against financial fraud, it's also difficult for many elderly persons to understand and comprehend the complexity of these schemes. Thus, the Philadelphia Police Department is very receptive to exploring ways the banking and financial system could insert financial safeguards or address existing loopholes to better protect elderly citizens without compromising their independence and dignity. Finally, from a criminal investigative perspective, the Philadelphia Police Department does what it can when crimes are reported. In fact, thus far this year, the Special Victims Unit has been involved in 20 investigations of fraud against elderly victims. 8 of these cases have been cleared, with 6 resulting in arrest. The remaining cases are under active investigation. Nonetheless, Even when an arrest is made, many times recovering the money lost is often difficult, if not impossible. So a component of any solution should include enhanced penalties. Special populations require special protections to dissuade and deter criminals. For this reason, the Philadelphia Police Department would also support the notion of enhanced penalties for financial fraud committed against the elderly as referenced in this resolution. In closing, the Philadelphia Police Department's commitment to protecting senior citizens from fraud is unwavering. The department will continue to work with any and all groups in furtherance of this goal, and we fully appreciate and support any assistance that this committee and the City Council as a whole can lend to this cause. This concludes my testimony. With myself and Captain Bergman are available to answer any questions you may have.
Captain, I do have one, and this is, I know these are difficult, but when you have a case where the criminals are out of state, out of the country even, targeting victims in Philadelphia, what do you do? Is there some protocol? I know it's very difficult.
Well, on that case, I could defer to the Captain Bergman, who's actually oversees the actual investigations. I'm more of a policy wonk here, so
Sure.
I'd rather defer to the expert in the field, and that would be Captain Bergman.
Yeah, come forward and please identify yourself for the record.
Hi, good morning, Captain Mark Bergman, Special Victims. I'm not sure I understood the question exactly. You're saying when the offenders are out of state?
Yes, or out of the country. Is there anything?
When they're out of the country, we work with Homeland Security. I've talked to my people. They tell me they do an excellent job. When they refer to Homeland Security, they've actually had good results with that.
Is there ability to track the call? I mean, let's say somebody called me, I had them on the phone for an hour, and well, they got on me and they got some of my money. Is there a way to trace that call later, or?
I couldn't tell you specifically how to do it, but I know that they can. It's not my unit that does it. That's why we refer it to Homeland Security. But they are able to do that. Maybe not in every case, but they can do it.
Oh, I know. I know it's exceptionally difficult. Thank you. Councilman Green?
Thank you, and thank you to the panel, Ms. Hernandez-Velez, for your work in the aging population, Captain Healy, and Mr. Mosey, thank you for all being here and testifying. Mr. Mosey, in particular, you talked about presentations you've made at churches and community centers, and I'm curious, one, in reference to the nature of those presentations, are they in a social media format? The reason I raise that is that many people, I think, make the incorrect assumption that people who are seniors are not on the internet, when actually that's not true from my experiences, both from my mother, who's very prolific on Facebook, and not Twitter, but definitely on Facebook, and other forms of social media, as well as from my experiences being board chair at Senator Park, where we've done a lot of initiatives on social media, because with seniors having free time, and I think initially they were connecting with grandchildren, other relatives who may not be in the area using Facebook, and then started connecting with friends and other people that they know. So that presentation where you're talking about fraud and crime that you've made to churches and community centers, is that information can be presented in a social media format?
Well, it's not presented in a social media format currently, but it does address the issues that you've raised. Right. It talks to seniors. There's no assumption that because somebody is over the age of 60 that they're not familiar with the internet and that they're not an active participant. So that is addressed, but I think that's an excellent suggestion.
Yeah, because I think sometimes you've got to battle fire with fire. So when people are receiving these messages over the internet, if there's counter information, especially through social media, and I think organizations like AARP and maybe PCA and others could maybe work collectively together and looking at how we can take that information and put it out in a social media format, especially during this time of year when people are getting bombarded with all kinds of information. Another question, which is actually to all of the panelists, before I was in the DA's office here in Philadelphia, I was in the Attorney General's office in Delaware as a prosecutor, and in that capacity, I also worked in the Delaware Securities Commission, and that was during a time period we had a lot of day trading and internet securities fraud. And one of the things that I found with victims is that there's a sense of pride that they don't want to come forward and talk about their story, because for many, they were the person that everyone in the family went to when they had issues and concerns. But as they got older and got possibly more susceptible to some of these frauds. They get caught in a situation that they don't want to tell anyone they got into a fraudulent situation. It gets worse and worse and worse until it gets to a point where it's almost on its last string and people now in a very precarious situation. So what have been your experiences in getting people to be more open and talking about situations where they may have gotten in fraud to help warn others?
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned pride and how that impacts this particular area. Pride is what I believe causes people to allow the fraud to continue. You know, even when family members are saying, what are you doing? You shouldn't be sending money to Africa. Nothing is going to happen with that. They continue to do it because pride is dictating that they're not making a bad financial decision. Certainly it has delayed reporting the crimes, and the longer it takes to get the information, the less likely, as Fran indicated, we're going to be able to recover what's been taken.
Hey, just to follow, and if any of the other panelists have anything to say, I know when I was working with Councilman Tasco and we were addressing the issue of predatory lending, one of the ways we were able to get the information out is that we had a senior in Tioga section of the city who became the face of predatory lending. So when we did a lot of advertisements and information through either water bills or with the Office of Housing and Community Development to get the word out, she was the face of the predatory lending issue. And Councilman Tasker also kind of became that face because she had constituents and members of Bright Hope that were coming to her who got involved in some of these predatory schemes. So if there's a way that we can pull together victims in a way that we're willing to talk about their stories, I think it helps a lot to get the word out.
Councilman Don?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for being here today. I just have a few quick questions for you. Do you think there's more fraud against the elderly than the rest of the population? Anyone can answer that one.
I'm not sure.
And maybe, and particularly, I guess, telephonic, where people are called, or do you think it's, I guess?
I can tell you this much, that before, I've been a special victim since March. And before that, I was in detective divisions. I was in East. And the amount of fraud I saw coming through with people that were not senior citizens was incredible. It's just nonstop, you know, the fraud. But I can tell you this, I think that a lot of the fraud against seniors does not get reported for a lot of different reasons. As we already spoke about, pride, they're embarrassed, they don't want to come forward. I have 20 investigations that for people, elderly citizens that have been exploited financially. There's got to be more than that. There's got to be more than that. It's common sense would tell you that there is. So I think the most of it goes unreported. Whether or not there's more amongst the elderly, I'm not sure.
Okay, so I'm not a senior yet, but I'm getting there. So I get these emails all week long. Here's an example. I lost my wallet. I'm overseas. Send me money. Or there's $5 million waiting for me at LaGuardia Airport. Just give my credit card. Or there's, you know, someone died and left me $13 million, some relative I have overseas. So all these things are automatic deletes. But I just want to, is there an education process for everyone that these are the types of emails you just want to delete them?
Well, sir, I'll be very honest with you. What the comments that were made by your colleague, Councilman Green, I'm writing notes here, is what can we do, especially during this Christmas season, to put some messaging out. We're very prolific as to Facebook ourselves, like your mother, but we also have Twitter, and we have a very good social media department where I'm going to try to develop something that we should put out, that maybe we can put out at least to everybody that we have, that we can touch, that you should be cognizant that anybody asking for money is basically not a good thing unless you identified it and you're sending it to you on your behalf. But people should not be reaching out to you for any kind of money whatsoever. But I like the idea, and I was trying to write while I was talking, but I think I'll reach out to my PR folks and see what we can get out today or by the end of the week, especially in light of the season.
Great.
To better educate.
And there's also with senior citizens who have people, home care workers who come into their homes. I'm not accusing anybody, but I know my own grandmother, the person who took care of her, stole a lot of her things. And so, you know, there's an expression, don't tempt honest people. Because most people are honest until they get tempted and get away with a little and they keep taking more. I'll give you one example. I'll admit this. In the 1990s, I had a bookkeeper who stole $250,000 from my company. Called the district attorney. I think at the time it was Lynn Abraham. I'm not positive, I think it was. The district attorney's office took care of it. The police investigated it. Went to court. and now I get a check every month for $300. It'll take me probably till I'm 140 years old to get paid back the $250, but the system worked. Just was a low number, but now I don't trust anything. I sign every check myself. I look at every little detail. Once you get burned, you learn from that lesson. So I'm just sharing that because you should come forward, and anyone who has had a crime should come forward and let you guys investigate it.
Well, I will make one comment. I do also work with the LEP, limited English language issues, and the whole issue of fraud. There's a whole element of pride and embarrassment that comes into it when people think, and once they know they've been taken advantage of, oftentimes pride kicks in and people don't report. So as the captain mentioned, there's far more going on out there that people won't come forward because they feel embarrassed that they got scammed. Now, it may not be for their entire bank account, but nonetheless, they don't come forward when they wish they would. So we'll do the best we can to educate, and hopefully they'll feel comfortable coming forward, realizing that they're a victim. I mean, it's not their fault.
So what I'm hearing, though, is overall the number one preventive medicine is education.
Education is absolutely, yes.
Is there any other ideas that any of you have on how to educate our population in Philadelphia to prevent this?
I think a coordinated campaign, there's a lot of different ways, marketing ways. We use tools for marketing. We could use those very same avenues to touch as many people. We have things you can stuff in mailers. There's something from a city as a whole, like I'm not speaking for other agencies right now, but there are ideas out there that you could put out there that you can get the message out and a unified message. We'll do it from the police department's perspective as best we can, but the water department, the electric company, they all mail things out, and everybody reads, especially some of the older folks read everything in those flyers. It may be a good source of information.
I think that's a good idea.
There are we do have a lot of vehicles to message things out to our citizens that maybe if we as a team sit down together, see how we can do this.
I think it's a very good idea. And the PGW, I know Councilman Green's on the board there. I mean, they do a great job at messaging.
Right.
So you may want to talk to them also. But who's going to carry that ball and make sure that happens?
I'll reach out for my PR person, and I'll have them reach out to the individual agencies, PR folks as well, see what we can do.
Okay.
I know we had done something a year or so ago regarding the fake utility workers coming to the door. And we had a campaign, we put out a campaign, and that was a united campaign. I can tap into those same resources to see what we can do here.
Let me ask you a question. Is it possible to have the Social Security Administration send out a notice?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The Social Security Administration, they send Social Security checks to the elderly, right? Is it possible to have them include a notice in that check?
This one's beyond my pay grade. Hold on.
Councilman, in fact, we collaborate with the Social Security Administration and have discussed with them, for example, having networks to our websites at the city that will link with theirs to make sure that people can click if they're interested in more information. And yes, we have conversations exactly about the issue of people who have, for trust reasons and whatever, basically given folks the payee status on their Social Security check. And before they realize it, the money's gone, the person's gone, and so working and making those referrals to Social Security.
I understand, but is it possible to have an insert or something on the check or something in that when the check's received about these types of things that are going on so they're alerted?
I'll explore it with them because we do have a relationship. I think more effective and one of the best ways is the utility bills. In the past, the city has used them. For example, seniors are significantly underrepresented as recipients of the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program. So we did, with the water department, did do an insert where folks were told, you know, it's worth it to reach out to Benefits Data Trust and find out if you're eligible for SNAP benefits. That's a very effective way. Another effective way that we have found has been the city's TV station. We did a major outreach 3 years ago for people to be in the Senior Community Service Employment Program, and one of the methodologies we used was to flash information on the city's TV station. And we were surprised at the number of seniors who came in to apply. When we asked them, where did you hear about it? They said, I was flipping channels at 2 o'clock in the morning and this caught my eye. So that's another medium which enables folks to basically say, oh, that's interesting, let me follow up and reach out.
So I think they're all good suggestions. I think all utility companies, I think the water, also which is the utility, but the target of this committee, of the chairman's committee here, is the elderly, and so that's really where Social Security plays a big, big role. That's the target.
Correct.
So if we can include that in an insert, that would be helpful with the utilities.
We will explore that.
Thank you.
That is the goal, really, Lydia, and thanks so much for being here as well, all that are here, to really promote this, let people know. This is another extension of PR in many ways. Maybe someone is tuning in now to local television and so on, so they know the story, and the news media is here, I know that, and so there's a continued dialogue about this so people know. I don't think we, to be very blunt, can talk about it enough, but I do like what Councilman Dom has suggested with Social Security. Now, it's not as easy as doing the water department because that's under our jurisdiction. Social Security, unfortunately, is not. However, I'd like you to reach out, because if it doesn't work or the answer comes back they can't, we could follow up in some way, or reach out to a federally elected official to suggest this. But I'd like to be, and this committee would like to be a part of that. So if you,
Sure.
I think if you could spearhead the first ask, and then the second ask, if it's a no, or even if it's a yes, then we can help with that and thank them. But to continue that dialogue, because who targets the seniors more than Social Security?
Correct.
Councilman Green?
Yeah, I just want to follow up on Captain Healy's point about PSAs. We often do a lot of PSAs here in this building with City Council and technical staff. So that's something that we could put together quickly with the police department. I was just talking to Misha Carrington Malone from my staff about trying to put together a PSA that we can do regarding financial fraud, and we could film it right here in City Hall. That's something that we could put together pretty quickly to get the word out, especially since we're in the holiday season. So.
Could I just add along the same lines that you have to target the elderly for education also, but a lot of times it's family members that come into us and make us aware that their elderly relatives have been victimized. We have to target the people that are taking care of them also to educate them what to look for. You'll see it all the time with public service announcements during heat advisories. Go check on, your family members and whatnot. They need to know what to look for also and how to monitor somebody, make sure they're not being victimized.
And this is for all the members of this panel. How many of these things do you think, because the elderly are just so fortunate, not so fortunate, that's not right, are just so happy that someone is calling that they can talk to about anything? I mean, do you think loneliness kind of plays in the way? Oh, I got this guy on the phone from Illinois, or I don't know, he sounds like a really nice guy, and he's calling about the work they're doing in the Caribbean, in the poor areas, or in Africa, or anywhere.
PCA could probably speak on it much better than I can, but yesterday I met with them and we were discussing that, how trusting people become when they get older. They trust everything anybody says, but I'll let them speak about that because they're much more authorities than I am on that.
Okay.
But I would agree, yeah.
Yeah, and that's, I think, where PSAs can be of great help and continued dialogue. Lydia, I'd like to talk to you more about your PSAs that you've had in the past.
I also want to emphasize
model something off of that.
Yeah. I also want to emphasize the diversity of language in our city. Our residents are more and more diverse.
Yes.
And the issue of language isolation is one that is affecting seniors as cohorts get older and have that lack of the network that would have supported them in their home country doesn't exist here, and therefore they're relying on folks who are like them. The other issue also is that when you want to give people information that they can act upon, language becomes very important, because although they may be able to communicate in English, if you want them to move to the next level and do something, the communication has to be in the language they feel most comfortable.
Do you think there is a lot of fraud then in someone calling and speaking in Spanish or in French or German or?
A lot of folks, yes, absolutely.
So there is fraud being committed by people that are
reaching
speaking
out
another language.
and finding that comfort in the language that they're using, and the sense of, oh, you speak my language, so I'm going to trust you.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily true. And also the issue of not having any other contact in a language that makes folks feel comfortable. We run into that in terms of
That's a very interesting
making
point.
sure that our staff is bilingual, or reaching out to the city's language translator to make sure that people get the information in the language they're most likely to act upon.
That is a very interesting point, one that I didn't think of, but let me be very blunt. I am bilingual. If you don't know it, I speak German because that's what my parents spoke to me. And I get that. When someone would call and speak in German to me, my guard up isn't as high up. Now, I'm not a senior, well, I might be a senior, I'm not sure. Yeah, I am a senior, but I'm a member of AARP. But the fact is, I've never even thought about that. That opens another door to camaraderie. You must be a good guy. You're speaking Spanish, you're speaking French, you're speaking German. Yeah, come on, let's talk, okay. I have a question for law enforcement in this regard. Is there a place, and it could be anyone on the panel, is there a place in the city government where insurance agents or financial advisors can report suspected cases while limiting these advisors' liability when they act in good faith to protect their clients, which may be senior citizens, from potential fraud? I mean, some of these people might be on the phone with their real financial advisor. He detects there's a problem, or she. Is there a place where they can go to report this?
Well, the district attorney's office has its insurance fraud unit, and we would actually proactively investigate the allegation, but that's certainly a place where those kinds of allegations can be made.
And I mean where the actual agent who's known the person for years and is a good guy says, I think Mrs. Jones is getting scammed, can you help? And Mrs. Jones really doesn't want to make the call for all the reasons we said, pride or anything else. So there is a place where they can.
That's right.
Some of our reports are third-party reports. We'll get
Really?
information from someone else, and then we'll investigate it. But a lot of times, they won't cooperate with us. Even though somebody else is telling us they're being victimized, they won't. But sometimes they do. But yeah, we do get third-party reports.
Your opinion on the following: do you think legislation providing liability protection for these very trusted advisors would help in reporting cases going forward?
I would think so, yeah.
Really? Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Any other questions from the question? Oh, one more question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One last question. Is there a form, like we have financial literacy for kids in school, is there a financial literacy for seniors?
I'm not aware.
And when you say financial literacy, would that include things like teaching them how to prepare a power of attorney, what to take into consideration,
Yes.
how to perfect an estate?
Right.
If, for example, the husband died, but everything was in his name, and now the widow believes that the property belongs to them, but it really doesn't.
Right. It would cover all of that. Everything you have to deal with it when you're a senior, financial literacy. As simplified as possible in multiple languages, but that's probably what we need to be used as an insert in whatever we can insert it into.
Councilman Green.
Yeah, I would think the Senior Law Center may have some of those resources regarding those type of initiatives, but I still think more information the better to help get the word out.
Thank you. Thank you, panel. Thank you very, very much. Will the clerk please call the next and final panel?
Kristen Kirkison, Joseph Snyder, Catherine Block.
Joe Snyder. I work with Jolene and Deb on the Bank Safe Initiative.
Whenever the panel is ready, and you can go as you see fit.
You go.
Good morning, City Council President Darrell Clark, City Councilman at Large Al Taubenberger and Derek Green, the City Council Committee on Aging, City Councilmen and Councilwomen, ladies and gentlemen joining us at this public hearing today. I am Kristen Kagaisen, Campaign Director for the AARP Fraud Watch Network, and I thank you for the opportunity to testify on the prevalence of scams and on the importance of fraud prevention. Every 2 seconds, somebody's identity is stolen. Millions of Americans fall victim to fraudulent schemes every year, resulting in tens of billions of dollars landing in the pockets of con artists and other criminals. According to Javelin's ID fraud survey conducted in late 2015, over 13.1 million victims were defrauded of $15 billion last year. That's billion with a B. And the true number is likely higher due to the fact that, as we've discussed before, a lot of people don't report fraud because of shame, embarrassment, and a range of other reasons. There are countless scams, including social media scams, text scams, public Wi-Fi scams, auto fraud scams, government impersonation, email scams, intimidation or extortion, real estate fraud, romance scams, holiday scams, the list goes on and on. Considering the numerous fraud schemes and the devastating impact that they can have on those who fall victim, AARP launched the Fraud Watch Network in 2013 to arm people of all ages, AARP members and non-members alike, with the tools they need to spot and avoid frauds and scams so they can protect themselves and their families. The Fraud Watch Network provides real-time alerts about the latest scams, tips on how to spot them, and the inside scoop on how con artists think so people can outsmart them before they strike. The AARP also features the Con Artist Playbook, which consists of interviews with con artists who reveal how they steal your hard-earned money, the strategies of fraud, basically. A fraud hotline you can call to talk to a trained volunteer for advice if you're worried that you or your loved one has been scammed or you think you've spotted a scam. A nationwide scam tracking map that gives you access to a network of people and local law enforcement who've spotted scams in your community, and the opportunity to share your own experiences so other people can benefit from it. In partnership with the AARP Foundation, our helpline has helped 43,000 people over the last few years nationally. And here in Pennsylvania, we have 1.8 million members, including 600,000 here in the Philadelphia area. All of our state offices participate in this campaign. They hold events and they recruit and train volunteers to hold educational events in their communities and across the states. And here in Pennsylvania, the state office is a leader in this work, having signed up more people than any other state in the nation to receive our watchdog alerts. And they have a great team of volunteers trained and out in their communities holding events to educate, like I said, not just AARP members, but everybody about how to protect themselves. With our free online resources and the passionate dedication of our staff and volunteers, AARP is leading the charge to educate the general public on fraud prevention and consumer protection. AARP is working in local communities to connect individuals with resources, to arm them with the information they need, and to listen to their experiences so that we can learn better how to help people protect themselves. We also work with local officials, as we are here today, to highlight the prevalence of frauds and scams and to strengthen our mutual commitment to protecting consumers in our communities. I'm pleased to bear witness to the City Council's commitment to ensuring the safety and well-being of Philadelphians, and I look forward to a continued collaboration with the AARP Pennsylvania State Office towards fraud prevention, education, and outreach. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Catherine Block. I'm a victim advocate at CARI, the Center for Advocacy for the Rights and Interests of the Elderly. Thank you for sponsoring this hearing and the opportunity to present testimony today. Financial exploitation of the elderly has vast implications not only to one's finances, but to one's health, relationships, sense of safety, and connection to community. At CARI, we often see older adults once a crime has been committed, like Mrs. C, an 89-year-old woman whose neighbor gained her trust and stole $300,000 from her, or 89-year-old Mrs. M, who was taken advantage of by a member of her church, who conned her into giving him $26,000 for driving her to see her husband at a nursing home and unmet promises of housework. The hardship for both of these women is extraordinary. They will not see the return of their finances in their lifetime or get back the time spent or stress exerted dealing with the criminal justice process. Preventing financial exploitation is possible. We urge the city to put forth a coordinated outreach effort to educate older adults about the reality of exploitation and teach tangible skills to help people protect themselves against predatory practices. CARI is pleased to help in any way, and we're looking forward to see what actions come out of this hearing. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for being here. Mr. Snyder.
Good morning. My name is Joe Snyder, and I'm the Director of Older Adult Protective Services at Philadelphia Corporation for Aging since 1993. PCA is the fourth largest area agency on aging in the country, delivers a variety of services to over 100,000 older Philadelphians. All of these services have a common goal: to improve the quality of life for older Philadelphians and to assist them in maintaining the greatest possible degree of dignity and independence. I'm also the co-founder and chair of the Philadelphia Financial Exploitation Prevention Task Force. On behalf of President Holly Lang, I'd like to thank the council members for holding this hearing and being here today. Financial exploitation of the elderly has been called the crime of the 21st century by the New York Times. There are 5 million victims of elder abuse in the United States, which is more than the combined total of child abuse and domestic violence put together without the benefit and support of funding from the federal government. In addition to the $2.9 billion that you cite in the resolution, TrueLink did a study in 2015 citing the cost of $36.48 billion. The next study will say 50 or 100 billion. It's only going to get bigger. Older victims who suffer abuse, neglect, and exploitation are 3 times more likely to die, 4 times more likely to go to a nursing home, and almost 1 in 10 victims will turn to Medicaid as a direct result of their own money being stolen from them. And you talked about that not being reported. Only one of these 44 cases, according to the best incident study we have, are reported to anybody, whether it be adult protective, whether it be the police, whether it be the DA, whether it be AARP, anywhere. Older Americans control the majority of wealth in this country. The kids know it, the grandkids know it, and the con artists know it. The Financial Industry Regulatory Authority says that the older Americans between 65 and 74 have about $35.7 trillion in assets. Isolation and loneliness are 2 major risk factors often used by the perpetrators to their advantage. Philadelphia has approximately 291,000 older persons in the city, the second highest percentage of the 10 largest cities in the country, of whom 250,000 of them have 1 or more chronic illness. Older Philadelphians experience poverty at twice the rate of senior citizens elsewhere in Pennsylvania and the nation. Among those 60 and older, 45% are living below 200% of the poverty line. In addition, 58% of the city's age 60-plus population is minority, foreign, or both. The Philadelphia Financial Exploitation Prevention Task Force was formed in 2010 in partnership with the city, financial institutions, and a host of relevant organizations to enhance collaboration between the agencies to prevent, detect, investigate, recover, and prosecute elder financial abuse. The task force also delivers training and is developing an awareness and prevention campaign. Prevention is the key to this complex problem that involves health, wealth, family, financial wellness, and safety of most vulnerable of our older citizens. We are promoting the concept of wealth care, which is a term coined by Dr. Jason Karlowicz, who's the co-director of the University of Pennsylvania's Healthy Brain Research Center and a task force member, as the connection between health and wealth is obvious. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony today, and we hope to work together to combat this insidious problem.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder, and I want to thank the panel. We do have some questions, and Councilman Green.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued by this whole concept. You said wealth care, and I would like you to explain some more.
Sure.
That connection of health and welfare and wealth, and especially for seniors, is very interesting. So.
Sure, thank you. And we're developing this as we speak, and I'll talk a little bit about it. Just like we've put together prevention for heart attacks and strokes, all of us of a certain age are taking the relevant medications to get us into normal range. We can do the same for financial exploitation. And we have some pieces already in place. The financial services industry is sitting on a wealth of information, not just financial, but of how the aging brain works as we go forward. There's technology out there. There's companies like Eversafe who exist, and Eversafe is a company founded by a serial entrepreneur whose mother was scammed and joined by the former district attorney of Manhattan as the vice president. And what it does, it allows you to, with the agreement of your parents, to be on their account, but you can't see the amount, and you have no ability to move money, but you set rules that say if mom processes more than 10 checks this month, boom, you get an alert. If mom does a check over 10,000, boom, you get an alert. So we're using technology to fight the crime that the criminals are using. You talked before about financial literacy, the panel did. We just met with Wharton School of Business as part of our wealth care initiative. They have a program called Bridges to Wealth that they did with a local high school in Philadelphia, and we're going to have meeting in January with all the senior centers directors, and it's about financial literacy and investing to underserved communities. I think it's a great program. The results with, I think it was the Latin charter school, are phenomenal. The results they had were phenomenal. We worked at the city empowerment centers. We, until recently, Carrie Morgan, who just resigned from the position, was a member of our task force. And there's just ways to put together this, because not only do we have, you talked about the pride and the way people look at things, one thing we have to look at is the role of the aging brain in all of this. And we're not just talking about dementia. You probably are familiar with the fact that once you get 85, you have a 1 in 2 chance of having some kind of dementia. But also, the research is piling up. There's a Harvard economist who says our ability to make, and this won't make any of us happy, our ability to make astute financial decisions peaks at 53, starts going downwards, and can take a precipitous drop after the age of 70. Now, this doesn't happen to all of us.
Right.
There's research at Iowa that says the normal aging of the prefrontal cortex can leads to a reduction in skepticism and an increase in gullibility. There's that trusting factor again. So we have all this to work with, and as we work with the Healthy Brain Memory Center, and Dr. Karlowicz is an international expert in cognitive aging and financial capacity, we're looking at all these and figuring out how do we get this in advance? Because the police will tell you the same thing that I'll tell you in protective services. Once we get it, the damage is done. And not only is the money gone, but the 3 times more likely to die and 4 times more likely to, all that comes into play. So we need to put together a system that protects our health and wealth. And we need to get together. And we actually have a good start in Philadelphia. And if we put our minds to it and put together, and with your help, I think we can do it.
Oh, absolutely. We're going to commit our help in any way that we can possibly help and have continued dialogue. Councilman Don?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the panel for being here today. A couple quick questions. Is there any information that your organizations have on financial literacy for seniors, one-pagers that can educate our population?
I believe that our organization does, yeah. We also do outreaches, and we get to see people in the court systems, unfortunately, after things have happened, but right. We talk to them. We have an empowerment model, so we kind of give them the skills to really combat future exploitation. And also, oftentimes, if somebody's not completely isolated, they are seeing friends at their senior center or in their neighborhood, and they do share if they have a good experience with somebody in the court or with the police. I know that they're sharing that information. So we do a lot of word of mouth, but we also do have,
if you have any
documents.
If you have any information on what's one page, keep it simple, and you can forward it to the chairman of the committee. It would be helpful. He can then distribute it to us.
Yeah.
Please.
We have a similar problem with something called Earned Income Tax Credit, EITC. I'm just going to take a moment because it's something that we're very interested in. We left $100 million on the table last year in Philadelphia that could have gone to 40,000 families who qualify. Earned income tax credit. Refunds are anywhere from up to $6,000 a year. You can file back 3 years, that's $18,000. So 10% of the people in the city qualify. Now, it's not going to help seniors because it works best when they have children, okay? But these are serious checks. So the Revenue Department came up with a form, a one-pager, that explains the whole program that we've been using. It's excellent. I'm just suggesting we have something like that for this situation. Let me just make sure I understand some of this data that you gave us in your testimony. You're saying that 20% of the population of Philadelphia is over the age of 60.
I don't know if I know the total population, but those numbers are real.
Population's 1,560,000.
Yeah, the 290,000 is right.
20%.
Yeah, I think that in the report I read, it said like 18.1%.
So we have a population of 1,560,000, okay? And it's actually 291,000, maybe 19%. But we have 400,000 people in poverty, and that's 26%. We have 181,000 in what's called deep poverty, less than 1,000 a month of income. But what you're saying is that between 18 and 20% of our population is over 60, and of that population, you're saying 45% are below the poverty line.
Yeah, this is from the PHMC Health Survey.
So you're saying that almost one out of 2 people over the age of 60 are in poverty.
I guess that's what that would be, yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I got that, because that's astounding to me.
It is astounding.
It's astounding. Okay, thank you.
I have a question and it is in regards to AARP. And Ms. Kirkison, first of all, I thank you very much for coming all the way up from Washington, D.C.
Oh, thank you.
I think it's, we're honored for your presence, and we're learning, and we want to work with you. In fact, I believe we have a town hall, a telephone town hall later, and I think that'll be also very good in educating folks about this really big problem, and it is really a major problem. Is AARP currently pushing or lobbying any specific policies or legislation that the agency, that AARP believes would benefit or prevent or decrease senior fraud? Is there anything specific?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. I'm honored to come here to testify. The Fraud Watch Network is an education campaign, and as such, our role is to make this information readily available and very simple and easy for people to understand. So we do have materials that, that are pretty clear and simple, one-pagers, that kind of thing. That's our major goal. So as an education campaign, this particular initiative does not pursue advocacy. However, our government affairs office does pursue advocacy with respect to the protection of seniors from financial abuse and exploitation. We've been working on uniform guardianship laws all over the country, and in fact have been quite successful in working with our partners across the country to gain passage of those. We work on a range of issues and initiative designed to help keep seniors safe and free from predators. We've worked in a number of places on task forces that bring together all sorts of agencies, and non-governmental organizations across the discipline to come together and really think in a very broad way about how to protect seniors, how to work together. These task forces in various places have come up with really good and useful legislation to strengthen the laws to protect seniors. So the answer is yes. We also have another initiative that we were just discussing called Bank Safe. It's under the AARP umbrella, which works together with banks and financial institutions to come up with new systems and processes to help keep seniors safe. One of those was the EverSafe that was mentioned earlier, which will allow children or family members of seniors to view their accounts. Another piece of that initiative involves training bank tellers and employees to spot fraud, and when they do spot it, what they can do to help prevent the money from leaving the bank account. Because as we know, once that money leaves the bank account, it is almost always gone and cannot, will not be returned to the senior.
Thank you. Councilman Green.
Yeah, I just want to follow up regarding those two products, BankSafe and EverSafe. How would someone, if their child or a parent is interested in getting that information, how would they get access to information? Is that a proprietary product, or if you provide some more information regarding that?
My understanding is that this has not yet been implemented in financial institutions. It's in the process of development. There's a lot of of legalities that need to be resolved to do that, and I'll let you talk a little bit more about that.
So the Bank Safe, I'm on the Bank Safe committee. We meet in Washington, and it should be ready for this spring. There was 7 or 8 states that took the initial grant from AARP. Pennsylvania was not one of them, but there's a number of them, and it will be available. But once it starts, it'll spread. It'll be available to bank tellers. The EverSafe is available right now. You just go to, I don't have their information in front of me, but if you Google EverSafe, you'll come up with it. You can call, and they make, they occasionally come in the area. The prosecutor from Manhattan is a Philadelphian originally, so she has a warm place in her heart for Philadelphia and comes visits us now and again. You can sign up now for that.
Okay, that's very interesting. That's something definitely wanted to get some more information regarding. And then I guess my final point is that often when you see advertisements that try to target seniors, they often use celebrity spokespeople of a certain age. I think of the late Senator Fred Thompson, Alex Trebek, others that people are more inclined to be receptive to those type of messages from those messengers. On the counter, has there been, and ARP has a very strong lobby. I know when people get to a certain age, they're very proactive in getting them to become a member of the organization, and we'll send the membership card every day, every week.
Yes.
Very aggressive lobby, I'll just say that. But considering that the broad connection of ARP, has there been any conversation about trying to bring in members who have certain celebrity status to kind of provide the counter information of saying why you should not be susceptible to fraud and those type of things?
Well, interesting that you should mention that. I just came from a wonderful event yesterday over in New Jersey where our Fraud Watch Network ambassador, Frank Abagnale, gave a great presentation about how people can prevent themselves from frauds and scams. So this actually sort of brings together two strands. One is that people always love to hear from a celebrity. You know, as you say, you know, we can really leverage that. Because people know who Frank Abagnale is. He is the former scammer who was portrayed in the movie Catch Me If You Can, and so people are just enthralled by his story, and they love to come hear him. The other thing that we learned, though, when we were doing some message research about how to structure this campaign, how to talk to people about frauds and scams, so we could make this information really simple so they would listen, what we discovered was people want to get inside the head of the scammer. They love to hear from the scammer. So by having Frank Abagnale as our ambassador, it sort of brought those two things together. They're enthralled. He's an excellent speaker. He makes it very clear and simple how people can protect themselves. And so he's done 20 events for us across the country for the past 2 years. He was in Pittsburgh a few months ago, and we'll hope to have him back in Pennsylvania again. But it's really a wonderful way to tell people how they can protect themselves.
Thank you.
Councilman Dom?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is just a suggestion. And, I'm floored by this number of 45% of the people in the city over the age of 60 are in poverty. So this was a thought because all of you deal with people generally over the age of 60, and they wouldn't qualify probably for EITC. But their children and their grandchildren are the beneficiaries of EITC. So if you could do an awareness campaign with the seniors, people over 60, talking about EITC, ask your child, help your grandchild financially. These are checks that are $2,000, $5,000, $6,000. You can file back 3 years. This is real money. Get the big picture for 1 second. We left $100 million in Philadelphia on the table that could go to 40,000 families in Philadelphia. That money's sitting in Washington, D.C. We have 400,000 people in poverty. It's 10% of those people can get free money from the federal government. There's nothing I think we can do more than get this money in the hands of Philadelphians. It's the most powerful message we can get across, and the results are huge. So when you're talking about 45% of the people who are over 60 in poverty, if their kids and grandkids got checks, I'm sure many of these seniors are helping their kids and grandkids. It might help them also. So whatever you can do, the Revenue Department has great information on this. We'll connect you with them. We need to do it, though. Thanks.
Councilman Don, thank you for that. And I'll have to say, we can't talk about this enough because there's so many people that don't know about it. It sounds like we're broken records, and maybe we are, but on the other hand, people need to hear the story, even if they're just tuning in, like right this moment. Your agencies, I mean, it's really a give and take. I'm glad we're able to provide you with some information. Councilman Don.
I just want to give a follow-up to that. I appreciate that, Chairman Taubenberger. But I look at money from government in the following contact. One, the first goal is to get as much money as possible from the federal government. And the second is the state of Pennsylvania. And the last is the city of Philadelphia. So we need to make sure all that state federal money comes to this city. That's number one. And this is $100 million. And you can file back 3 years. This is insane amount of money. I mean, people should be like saying, let's get the word out. So thank you, whatever you can do. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I have a question for anyone on the panel. In your experience with all these cases, do you think senior fraud is perpetuated by family members with power of attorney or by people that know the victims, or is it more from strangers, con artists, if you would, where the target is very random?
Yeah, mostly it is family members or people who are their friends or people who come into their lives, like the example I said from a church, who gain people's trust. I mean, we mentioned it before about isolation. You know, one of the things is that sadly, many seniors are isolated, so they do grab onto the relationships that are around them, and it's very easy for someone to play on the emotions of somebody, and family members and friends and neighbors, unfortunately, are able to just take advantage of that. So that is a reality. And I think that's one of the things that we need to do in terms of doing outreach is really teaching people how to protect themselves against someone while navigating those complicated emotional relationships, because when your son is stealing from you, you still love your son.
Yeah.
So
that is what you're saying is, I find as a human being, as a father, very, 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 very sad.
Yeah.
Very sad. Anyone else that would want to comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It is family members, and it's one of the reasons why this is remained a hidden problem.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to comprehend.
Right.
On many levels, just as dangerous are the scam artists and the people. We break it down to people with a relationship with a person and people who don't have a relationship or strangers in their life, and they're both equally devastating, but it's done much more by family. It's a very complex issue, and you know, when you think about, I say this all the time, the first time Congress mentioned this issue, elder abuse, was 1950, and 60 years later, we finally got a law called the Elder Justice Act in 2010. It took 60 years, and since 2010, it sits there without a penny in it, and it passed as part of the Affordable Health Care Act. So we don't know what's going to happen anyway. So, but it's astounding to me that we're still talking, you know, literally 67 years later, and the awareness isn't there, and the impetus to do something about it isn't there, and it just is an incredible story.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. I am very shocked at that. We all come here, we learn, that's why we have these dialogues. I think it's a great thing of democracy. In fact, to give you a sense how it started in my mind, it started over 18 months ago. I wasn't even a councilman at that time. I was actually campaigning at my dining room table calling up voters. All of a sudden I realized, and I had a couple volunteers with me and making sure that I got the right call and said hello to Mrs. Jones and, you know, ask her for her vote. But while I'm doing that, my wife is on the phone, and she is like all of a sudden really in total distress. Well, somebody was on the phone, and she's a bit younger than me, so she's not a senior. But someone on the phone had told her that they just got into an accident with her brother-in-law, and there was a need for money, and if the money wasn't paid, this man's cousin was going to shoot my brother-in-law. I happen to like my brother-in-law, so I don't want him shot. But she really, really got upset about it. I wish he would have called me, because I'm an only child. I could have said they have my brother. I would have said shoot him, and that's the end of that. But the fact that it happened so easily, that they had her cell number, that she answered the phone, and that she was on the phone as long as she was with him. I then talked to my son, who's a Pennsylvania State Trooper, just a little bit about it, like, can we report it? We actually still had the person's number. And he said, Dad, there's very little you can do about it. You report it if you want to, but the person probably was not in this country when he called. He probably was somewhere else, even though it was a local number. It was a 215 number. It wasn't like unmarked, so you're even more readily to answer the phone. But you can buy those phones from a variety of sources. So, you know, that's what spurred me on, that once I had been put on as chair of this committee, that was something that was driving me, and even today now is driving me even further in the sense of what I have just learned, you know, today in regards to family members doing this, because the whole thing is sad, even when but it's even sadder when it's really, you know, someone you know. And my son from the state police did give me a very example of someone he was working with right now. They're in the suburbs. They were a principal of a high school. Principal of a high school was called up on the phone, said he had won several million or several $1,000s, and if he would please send his banking information to this particular address. So the former principal, retired man, pretty well educated, goes to the post office and wants to mail this. And the postmaster saw that, the postman saw it and said, you know what, this is the address of a known scam artist. Do not send it. He said, okay, I didn't. So he goes back, he has the number of the person that he called and said, "Sir, I'm very sorry, but I was told your address is no good. Please give me another address where I can send you this information." And he did. And he did it, and he got scammed. I mean, it's very sad when you can get educated people like this to act in such a way for a variety of sources. And in the end, these perpetrators, were not caught. So it's an ongoing thing. This is much more common than we realize. Is there anything that you see specifically? We have some great ideas from you. We're going to do some announcements. We're going to, as a panel, go forward with talking to the Social Security. But is there something you see that we could do very easily that we have not talked about?
Well, I would say from ARP's perspective, we are very focused on prevention, because, as we see, when the money's gone, the money's gone. So, we're very interested in getting that information to people before they are victimized, before they're targeted, so that they're aware of what the scam is and they can see it coming. They say, no, that's what it, I've heard about this is a scam, goodbye. There are going to be those cases where the person says, no, I'm determined to do this, but for the most part, if people recognize it, and we've had people tell them that over and over again, if they recognize it, they're much more likely to say no and hang up the phone and not go for it. So we put together lots of educational materials. We're having wonderful online initiatives, online advertising initiatives that we do about 4 per year. We do a lot of social media. We certainly encourage everybody, all branches of government and all of our partners, to pick up our social media and use it. Take it, post it, forward it, tweet it, use whatever you want. Take what we have online and put your logo on it. We develop these materials so they get out there. We don't care how they get out there. We're also developing partnerships with folks across the spectrum. We partner with the Postal Inspection Service. We partner with attorneys general across the country. We actually have a great partnership going with a regional bank in the Northeast where they're going to be distributing our materials in their lobby. So what we really encourage, is that partnership. We're happy to provide, great and simple materials that people can look at and learn quickly. To Councilman Dom's great suggestion, this stuff has to be digestible. So I would just encourage a lot of partnerships, and that's easy and simple.
Great.
There's a wonderful new video out from Nashville Public Television. It's about a week old that has all people from this field in there. And one of the speakers is Judith Shaw, who's the state regulator for the state of Maine. And she said something I really, really like. She said, "My wish for all of this is that people would call their family members as much as the scammers do."
Wow.
And I took that as a very powerful statement. In addition, a few years ago, we put together something from the federal government, Department of Justice, called the Elder Justice Roadmap Project to tell us which way to go next. And a lot of the group was just what we heard, form multidisciplinary teams. But one of the things, and it's the first time in our group that we invited people that we usually don't invite to our meetings to hear different thoughts. And there was a person there said that what you need is a Got Milk campaign for elder financial exploitation. And we said, okay, will you do that for us? And they said, yeah, we'll get back to you. But we never heard from them again. But that idea also resonated with me. We've been talking, every time you see an initiative, whether it be federal or state, always in the top 10, if not number one, is a public awareness campaign on this issue, and it's never been done to the effect that you can, because you all know as well as I do the problem of reaching the people that you don't reach.
Right.
And that's way beyond my expertise, but that stuck with me too. A Got Milk campaign for elder financial abuse. And always, and as all of you probably know, when somebody's exploited, often it doesn't exist alone. There's also physical abuse or neglect involved. They call it poly-victimization. Wow. So it's not just the abuse. But I think that's something that I've wanted us to do, and I don't know how to do it.
Very sad. Councilman Dom.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there a way to educate the children of people over the age of 60 or even over the age of 70 as to what you should be doing as a child to help your parent with checkbooks? Because I had, from personal experiences, I understand that as you get older, your memory slips. You can write 2 checks to the same person. things happen, and it's not just fraud, it's just mistakes that go on. Is there something that your organizations do?
Well, I actually wrote 2 checks to the same person last week, so you're getting a little close to home. But yeah, we actually have a caregiving campaign under our ARP umbrella as well that talks to caregivers about how to take care of themselves as they're taking care of their loved ones. And we have certainly talked about incorporating, elements of fraud protection into our caregiving campaign. So exactly as you say, the children of aging parents, sometimes the aging children of aging parents, can help educate their parents, watch out for them, make sure that they're not being scammed. We do, of course, run into that intersection where, as we discussed before, family members are sometimes, the ones who are victimizing. But we think it's really worthwhile. I mean, our organization is made up of not just seniors, as we say, 65 plus, but we are in fact 50 plus. And so we have older baby boomers and seniors as our members, and that is a focus of both these campaigns.
But I would think as people are living longer, the children that are 60, many still have parents alive that could really help them also.
So June 15th is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, and it's celebrated all across the United States. We have an event in Washington at the SEC for the last 5 years from my national organization, but our task force has put on events for the last 4 or 5 years in Philadelphia, and we aimed it at financial institutions 1 year, consumers 1 year, children and caregivers the next year. And we're planning the event right now. My assistant director, Jennifer, who will be on the Teletown Hall, is organizing that with Senior Law and the Alzheimer's Association. We'd love your support and help in making it a big one. We've had a couple ideas of floating around of, we've done it in one place. We talked about doing it in a number of places, or we talked about doing it with a video. And the Alzheimer's Association, Delaware Valley chapter in Pennsylvania, is one of the best in the nation. The Healthy Brain Research Center it has video capability, and we have so many partners. And our event last year was at the Philadelphia Free Library and was pretty well attended.
Okay, thank you. Unfortunately, I have to leave, but I want to thank you all for being here, and my colleagues, I'm sure, will carry forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Dom, thank you very much. Councilman Green.
Yeah, I just want to follow. I think that initiative is something very important. I know I've participated with Senator Park in the past, but that's something I think through City Council we can help to get the word out, either through resolution, other type of things, and try to make that a larger event to help get the awareness out regarding that type of issue. So I'm sure we'll be willing to help.
Oh, absolutely. Wherever we can help you get the word out.
Good. We need a big space.
We'll figure out something.
We can figure it out. All right.
Yeah. We're council people. We can do this.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Snyder, I do have one final question for you. You had talked about BankSafe and EverSafe, and BankSafe is not online yet, but is there a sense when it might be?
This spring, they're supposed to run. It's supposed to be ready for the states that are participating, and the first line of that is training for tellers.
Is Pennsylvania one of those states?
Pennsylvania is not one of those states.
Really?
But a lot of financial institutions have training. We have the first and still only partnership between an adult protective service program and a national bank in Wachovia in 2003 to 2007. And so we've done a lot of this training. We have 5 or 6 banks and credit unions on our task force. So most places have their own training. What BankSafe is trying to do is to make it better and bigger. So they're doing a lot of research around how to do the training. And
what would it take to get Pennsylvania on board? Or is it something that
I'm
just the
gonna
city
ask.
of Philadelphia could do?
We're going to call
Deb.
We're going to call Deb, who heads it in AARP, and try to do that. Some banks are resistant because they have their own training, but most of them will like this because they're making it bite size. Somebody talked about the one pager. I think it was Councilman Dunn, and these are for tellers who are immensely busy, and according to AARP are millennials, and they want their Instagrams and and little bites, and so they're going to have it at their computer saying, what are the signs of financial abuse? What are the signs of neglect? And 5 minutes, 20 minutes, so they know. And I think it's coming together really nicely, and I think it'll be available to everybody soon, but we can talk to them.
For the states that are doing it, is this done voluntarily, or is it's done voluntarily?
There was I think a $10,000 grant to each state that was put out.
Yeah, it's voluntarily.
Yeah.
It's voluntarily.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And EverSafe, which is currently being
Which
used,
is a company.
is that used in by Philadelphia banks?
It's used across the country and can be used by anybody, and it's a year or so old, so they're moving across the country to do this. Anybody, I can pick it up, you can pick it up tomorrow.
Oh, you do it as an individual?
Individual. Yeah, it's an individual. Yeah, it's an individual product.
Individual product, and the bank then goes along with that? I mean, they're...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, actually, what it is, I was just listening to the former prosecutor in Manhattan at a conference last week, and basically what the EverSafe product does is it doesn't just look at one financial institution. It allows the person and their family members to look across the range of all of their financial institutions, because you might have your checking account and your savings account at one bank, but maybe you have your retirement accounts at other banks, and so it allows you to look at all of the range of those accounts all together, sort of on one dashboard, and it gives you the alerts if anything happens above a certain threshold. And there's apparently, from what I've heard, no other product that looks across all of your accounts. So it's pretty revolutionary. It was the prosecutor is really an amazing person. She says, I spent my life trying to prosecute these frauds. She had prosecuted what was the famous Brooke Astor case, and just said, I can't fight it from this side. We need to prevent these things from happening in the first place, because once the money's gone, the money's gone. And so it's a really interesting product. I mean, we're not endorsing, but all of these products and these processes and these trainings that are coming up are going to be, one piece of the puzzle in terms of providing protections for older Americans.
So I sit on a national financial exploitation board with Howard Tischler and Liz Lowy, who are the founders of EverSafe. And when I met Howard, I said, how do I know you're not trying to scam me with this? And he said, that's a good question. So we sat down and talked for a while, and I trust them implicitly. And I'm not endorsing it either because I'm not allowed to, but I entrust them implicitly. And I have to talk about it because it's a way to use technology to protect us and to fight the bad guys who are using technology and the internet to scam us. So I think it's a great idea and product. It requires, and Liz Lowy, who's the prosecutor and as I said, a Philadelphian, will tell the story of how she had to convince her parents who live in Rittenhouse to go along with this, because it's not just we're doing this, it's a conversation, but it's a conversation that we all have to have.
Thank you very much. Councilman Green.
Yeah, just one other point. I'm very active in the National League of Cities, and I think that's another organization that you can reach out to in reference to BankSafe, and then from the founders of EverSafe may want to reach out to them as well, because we just had our annual national conference in Pittsburgh a few weeks ago, and it's an organization that can get the word out to council members and mayors all across the country. And I'm sure we are one of numerous cities who are dealing with this issue of financial fraud with their seasoned population.
Yeah, I think Liz and Howard would be thrilled. We get that contact. I'll put you in contact with them, or however you want to do that. I think they'd be thrilled, and I think it's just a fabulous product.
Thank you all very, very, very much. I thank everyone in the audience. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to testify? Yes, sir. Okay. Oh, two of you? Well, we'll come to the table, and panel, you're dismissed. Thank you very, very, very much, particularly for traveling from Washington. Good morning. Good morning. Please state your name for the record. Who goes first is entirely up to you two.
Good morning. Leah Finlayson, Senior Law Center. I'm a staff attorney.
William Donahue, and I am with Trump Zion Tabernacle Church here in the city.
Very good. We met earlier, I believe.
Yes, Councilman.
Great. Well, thank you for being here. time is yours.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairperson Taubenberger, Councilman Green, and members of council for this opportunity to address the growing concern over financial abuse of our seniors here in Philadelphia. Our work at Senior Law Center is protecting the rights of older Pennsylvanians. Located here in Center City, Philadelphia, we were founded in 1978 to protect the rights of seniors in need and now serve over 7,000 each year, 60 years and older, across Pennsylvania with legal representation, education, and advocacy. We save homes, prevent homelessness, fight for grandparent and voting rights, stop elder abuse, fraud and exploitation, and promote independence and dignity. We are an independent nonprofit and the only nonprofit organization solely dedicated to providing legal protection to Pennsylvania senior citizens. We serve over 7,000 Pennsylvania seniors each year with limited resources, and all our services are free. We welcome any opportunity for greater collaboration with our city's leaders in law enforcement, in this council, with the Kinney administration, and with all governmental and quasi-governmental agencies in the city, as all should be highly concerned with the health and welfare of our over 250,000 seniors. We serve with several of our colleagues present today on Philadelphia's Collaborative Financial Exploitation Prevention Task Force for Older Philadelphians, which includes representation from police and district attorney's office. Several also serve on diverse other coalitions addressing victims' needs here in Philadelphia, in Harrisburg, and across the nation, and bring the voices of the senior victims we serve to those tables. As to the resolution number 160646, we support authorizing the Committee on Aging to conduct public hearings regarding financial abuse and senior citizens in Philadelphia. We are in the midst of a crisis in elder abuse and exploitation in our city and in our nation. In 2010, financial exploitation cost older Americans over the age of 60 $2.9 billion nationally, as estimated by MetLife Mature Market Institute and the National Committee for the Prevention of Elder Abuse. And the numbers continue to grow. In 2014, the Pennsylvania Uniform Crime Reporting System listed over 7,400 persons over the age of 60 who are victims of fraud, forgery, or counterfeiting. These numbers reflect only those crimes which were reported. National research reveals that underreporting is vast in the area of elder abuse. Recent data indicates only 1 in 44 cases of elder financial exploitation are reported. Those elders are often suffer in silence, unknown, often in shocking conditions. Our population in Philadelphia is particularly at risk as we have the largest percentage of seniors of the 10 largest cities in the country, nearly 20%. Almost 1 in 5 of Philadelphia's seniors is low income, and most are women. Research confirms that the seniors we serve are the most vulnerable to physical and financial abuse. These are the oldest with the lowest income and women. Philadelphia, with its predominantly poor and female elder population, is home to the largest of these victims' population. These statistics justify an emphasis on services targeted toward elder victims, as our programs do. Female elders are abused at a rate higher than their population in the aging population. Elders are more vulnerable to thefts. About 1 in 5 of personal crimes against the elderly was theft, compared to 1 in 33 for persons aged 12 to 49. Those 80 or older are abused and neglected 2 to 3 times their proportion of the total elderly population. Almost 90% of elder abuse involves a perpetrator who is a family member. 2/3 of perpetrators are adult children or spouses. Those with the lowest income have the highest incidence of abuse. Those with income less than $10,000 experience 57.1% of physical abuse and 47.9% of financial abuse. Income levels less than $15,000 account for 75.6% of physical abuse and 77.7% of financial abuse. We would welcome an opportunity for Philadelphia seniors to share their own stories with the Committee on Aging and to examine and strategize responses and needed resources to this crisis facing our seniors. We need your partnership and support to make this city home to one of the largest and most vulnerable populations of seniors in the country, one that truly demonstrates respect for our elders and their safety, dignity, and well-being. We look forward to working with you to make Philadelphia a safer home for our senior population and to empowering our senior citizens in their fight against exploitation. Thank you very much.
Welcome, thank you. Please stay in case there's other questions, and I might have one, but.
Thank you.
Sir? Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman.
And please state your name for the record.
Yes, William Donahue. Mr. Chairman, Councilman Green, how are you? And our friend Councilman Dom, we count Councilman as a friend of the church, and I know he's doing great work on council. I have something that's anecdotal. I'm sure at this point you have statistics that will shore up your case here for making your case. But a number of years ago, a dear friend who at the time was 82 years old was scammed. And this came from California, an attorney in Los Angeles who apparently had a former client that had done some time in the California penal system. The attorney had multiple identities, was in the habit of flying on a private jet to Aspen, Colorado on weekends from LA, lived at Marina Del Rey, office on Wilshire Boulevard, Mercedes-Benz convertible, nice life. And she got a phone call one night, and this was a woman who was, she was the Energizer Bunny. She was 82 years old, but she was running all over, taking care of all of her friends. She'd get on a bus and go anywhere. One of her relatives had been Deputy Commissioner, Police Commissioner of Philadelphia, and was the head of L&I in Mayor Rendell's administration. She had two nephews that were two of the top corporate attorneys in the city. She had terrific family support. Her husband was gone at that point in her life. They owned the home, free and clear. She probably had, in addition to a professionally managed portfolio from Prudential, maybe $150,000 liquid in her asset base. And I called her one day just to check in and say hi. And she started telling me about this phone call that she had received, soliciting her in the evening after dinner. And I think this is one of the things that people need to look for, to invest in a wireless cable television communications company of some sort. And she had written a check for $15,000 and sent it to this fellow in LA, and apparently thought better of it and canceled it. And they called her back, and she wound up sending them another check for $6,500, which they cleared. And I said, well, is there anything else going on here other than, the LA thing? And I had a pad. I was sitting at a desk, and I had a pad, and I started taking notes. And when she hit $50,000, my head felt like it was going to come off my shoulders, and I said, stop. I said, I'm coming to the house. I'll be at the house tomorrow. And I got off the phone and called someone I knew with the FBI. And it wasn't what this fellow's squad handled, so he passed it on to another agent at a squad that handled this sort of thing, and that agent was there at her home the next day at 1 o'clock in the afternoon to interview her and to collect evidence, because she was getting these mailings of all these lovely looking 4-color brochures, and all this sort of thing. And so there's a picture here of a population that is very vulnerable, but the most vulnerable that you would think of, as if you had a picture in your mind, aren't necessarily the only ones that were vulnerable. She was lucid. She was, and when I thought about it afterwards, I thought, well, how could this happen to her? People come to her for help. How could this? And I think a lot of it, for whatever this is worth, has to do with people wanting to be independent in their thought process and their actions, and they hang on to that for as long as they can. They want to make their own decisions.
Sure.
Because I remember her saying to me, "I feel so foolish." And I said, "No, it's okay." I said, "Don't feel foolish. It's not." She said, "Please, whatever you do, please don't tell her nephews." And that's what she was concerned about. More than losing the $50,000, she was concerned about looking foolish to her attorney, very well accomplished, very well educated attorney nephews, and what they might think of her.
It really shows that anyone, this can happen to anyone.
It's an insidious process, and I commend you for undertaking this. And I think you're probably going to hear some stories here when you do your public hearings that will just spin your head, and maybe when you go home that night, you might toss and turn a bit. I remember one of the FBI agents telling me he had a personal situation where he was working on a case, and a retired teacher in Florida had signed over his home to these guys. This situation, this particular situation, this woman's situation, turned into a multi-state, a national law enforcement operation conducted by the FBI that was dubbed Operation Senior Sentinel. And I believe it was December of, might have been 95, 96, that's the time frame, where the FBI cast their net nationally and pulled in over 400 people that were involved with these scams and boiler room operations. And I guess the LA attorney and his former client got to be cellmates at that point after the process took place. But yeah, it's quite a problem. And when I spoke with Shannon, greeted Shannon coming in today and heard what was going on here, I thought, well, this is a good thing, but it might be, in the end, you might find that this is going to be a depressing thing also.
Well, in some ways, you're very right. A couple things here really depress me, particularly when it results from family members and people that the victims hold dear, that are intrusive into their lives and are known already, and they're exploiting them. I don't see anything. It's as cruel as you can get.
As hard as she had, as difficult as it was for her to say no to a stranger, I can only begin to imagine how difficult it would be for family members to say no to someone in their family, which is really, if you're starting from that point, it can only get worse from there.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Councilman Green.
Thank you.
Yeah, just wanted to follow up. When I was doing prosecutorial work in Delaware, and we were dealing with people who got involved in some of these day trading and other type of scams, I mean, I almost could verbatim restate some of the statements that you made, that they didn't want anyone to know. They feel, how could I be so foolish? The exact same statements. And I tried to explain to some of the people who are victims that the people who are preying on you are professionals. They know they've been doing this and practicing their craft, just like a person who's an attorney or a cello player or a football player who are professionals. These fraud artists are professionals. And so they try to identify people, they look for clues and information, and once they get in, they specifically narrowed, and it's just a little bit at a time, and the reason why they prey on seniors, I believe, because one, the trust factor, because as you become older, you're somewhat more trusting. Two, because of people who are used to being very independent, and as they get old, there's their own self-concern of, am I getting older? Can I still hang on and do what I want to do, be an independent person, from driving to, I may be retired, but I'm still involved in other activities. So they prey on all those issues. And that's what's so insidious about this, because they know more likely than not, even if they're able to take advantage of someone, that person's not going to tell anyone. And when they finally do get to a point of letting someone know, it's often too late. And so having this panel where it's Senior Law Center giving your information about the data you've done and the excellent work you've done, I think I referenced you earlier in today's hearing, is wonderful. And then your anecdotal perspective that I'm sure so many people can tell the exact same story of saying the victim eventually said, how can I be so foolish? And please don't tell anyone. And I think that's the message we've got to change, that no, you're not you're not foolish. You were taken advantage of by someone who's a professional at this craft, and we need more people to come out and share their story so that other people don't be the victim like unfortunately that person was.
In this particular story, the scenario wasn't completely tragic because she had a sufficient enough asset base that she wasn't wiped out, and it didn't affect whether or not she was going to eat next week, her rent was going to be covered, etc. Or in the case of that fella in Florida that signed his house over.
Right.
But it's very well organized, it's very well structured, and they cooperate, these groups cooperate with one another. An agent told me that they sell lists to one another.
Absolutely.
And that normally a name on the list could be worth $10 or $15, and he said to me, Bill, her name's worth about $50. And so they would, they keep track of how much they get into them for. They put all that down, and then when they sell these lists, here's a whale. This one's going to be $50, and then they pass that information along. So it's quite an operation.
And thank you for your advocacy, because it could have been much worse if someone like you did not step up.
Yeah.
I was glad she told me. I mean, I was sick, but I was glad that she mentioned it to me. And my great uncle and aunt lived on a street that came up to the back of their property, their yard. And when I was a kid, I would stop to see them, and then the local playground the entrance was on that street, and I would hop the fence and run through their yard and up, it was a stone twin, and that was my shortcut. So I had known her for a long time. And I kept my pledge not to tell her nephews, but I was glad that I had somebody to call. I just happened to know some of the fellows, and they got right on it, and they couldn't do much about getting money back for most of the folks, although we recovered some funds for her. I'll tell you that conversation I'll give you that conversation off record someday, maybe how I reacquired some of her funds. But it's a serious, and it's got to be so much more sophisticated today. I'm referencing early mid-90s here.
Right.
And now, with all of the advances in with the IT stuff and the internet, and the way people can be contacted, and it's got to be really a headache for law enforcement. And when they cross state lines like that, of course, local people have to go to the feds to put the case together, and that takes time. So it's you'll be doing good work here.
Thank you. And that testimony and your intervention in that particular case is very, very helpful, and maybe someone has listened to this or will listen to it or will report on it, and it might motivate someone else, or at least give them the expertise to follow through.
Just keep an ear out for your older neighbors and your older family members, and just listen to what they're saying. It might come to you in different ways, but I think they get to a point where they realize, oh no, what did I do here?
Right.
And then they just have to find a way to get a hold of somebody that can help them. And I think that can be a sticking point for a lot of them because of that embarrassment factor.
Very, very true.
So one last thing.
Yeah, and I have a question for you, Senior Law Center.
For our clients, it's not just the exploitation that is the problem. It's once the exploitation happens and they now don't have the funds, they can't pay their rent, they can't pay their utility bills, they're now faced with a shutoff or an eviction or a mortgage foreclosure or not paying the taxes. So it spawns many other legal problems.
My question for you is, how many cases like that do you get a year, approximately?
I will say, I just started at the senior law
I'm not
center,
going to
so I
audit
can't
the
really
books.
say.
This is not a budget hearing or anything like that.
My grant is actually focused on domestic violence and financial exploitation. So, of the 7,000 cases a year we get, the problem again, as we've seen, it's not reported. So I think the numbers that we're saying is pretty true.
Right.
Only a small percentage of those cases, say only 10% of those cases have been reported now. We're doing concerted outreach efforts to all the senior centers to make sure the education piece is out there. But usually in passing, when I speak to a client, they'll say, well, I'm here for a power of attorney or will, and oh, by the way, I transferred the deed of my house to my son 6 years ago, and now I don't have anywhere else to go.
Wow.
And I'm paying rent somewhere else.
That's really difficult.
So it's the same
and sad.
idea of
Yep.
they're reporting it too late.
Yep. Well, I thank you both for your testimony.
Thank you, Councilman.
Is there anyone else that would like to testify at this point? Seeing none, I'm going to recess this committee at the call of the chair to gather some more information. I think we've gathered a lot of information. I think we've shared some, we've received some, and we look forward to going forward in a positive way and getting some things done. And it only came about because of your caring and your passion for this very important and sometimes very sad situation. These crimes are really crimes against, in many ways, all of us, but we really should do something about it, and this is the least we can do, and we're very pleased to be a part of it. Councilman Green, any final remarks? Right. We are having, after this, starting at 1 o'clock, a telephone town hall, teletown hall meeting from this very chamber, so anyone that wants to be part of it or be here, please come back at 1 o'clock. And this is via AARP. These are great partners, and this is all part of getting the word out and working to eradicate as best we can, because some of these situations are just going to go on. But the more education we can give, the better off we all are. And I thank you so much for your help and support. Thank you.
Taubenberger, it's also a pleasure to be here with AARP, and we're having the telephone town hall meeting regarding financial fraud, especially for seniors during this time of the year. I think this will be a very informative conversation. This is not the first time that we've participated with AARP. Earlier this year, both Councilman Taubenberger and myself participated in an earlier telephone town hall, and it's a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you. Hello, everyone joining us on this call. I'm Jacqueline E. Sassy from AARP, Pennsylvania. Thank you for joining our teletown hall today to talk about how you can identify and avoid imposter scams. You'll hear from experts from AARP and from the Philadelphia City Council, and you'll have the chance to ask questions and share your stories. But first, we want to set the stage for you. Millions of Americans fall victim to fraudulent schemes every year, resulting in tens of billions of dollars landing in the pockets of con artists and other unsavory criminals. We want to help make sure you won't be caught with your guard down. During this teletown hall, we'll talk about ways to identify and prevent imposter frauds and scams. Before I turn to our guests for comments, I'd like to tell you how you can ask questions and share your stories today, since this is an interactive call. If you would like to ask a question at any time during this call, just press *3 on your telephone keypad to be connected with an AARP staff member who will note your name and question or story and place you in the queue. The sooner you press *3, the sooner you will be online with our guests. Before we get started, I'd like to thank City Councilman at Large Al Taubenberger and Derek Green and the City Council Committee on Aging for collaborating with AARP on today's event. Now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guests for today's call. Today, we are joined by Kristen Kakheisen, AARP's Fraud Watch Network National Campaign Director, Lydia Hernandez-Velez, Philadelphia Deputy Managing Director for Aging, and Jennifer Spory, Assistant Director, Older Protective Services with the Philadelphia Corporation of Aging. Thank you for joining us. Kristen, let's start with you.
Hello, it's good to be with you today. Every day, Americans lose money and control of their personal information through scams and frauds. And criminals every day get more and more sophisticated with their tactics. Sadly, identity theft and other forms of fraud pose a serious threat throughout the nation and here in Pennsylvania. The AARP Fraud Watch Network is designed to provide both national and local information to help protect you, your family, and your friends from identity theft and fraud. It's free and it's open to everyone of any age, AARP members and non-members alike. When you get the chance, visit our website, aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network, all one word. Now, let's make you aware of some recent scams and frauds we've been hearing about. An imposter scam is when somebody pretends to be somebody they're not, or pretends to be with an organization they are not, to get your money or your personal information. Imposter scams come in a number of shapes and sizes. Among the most popular is the grandparent scam. You get a call or an email unexpectedly from someone who claims to be a friend or a relative. This often happens to grandparents, with the caller claiming to be their grandson or granddaughter. The caller says there's been an emergency, maybe an accident, or maybe they wound up in jail, and they ask you to send money immediately. But beware, if this happens to you, there's a good chance that this is an imposter trying to steal your money. They might say something like, I'm in Canada and I'm trying to get home, but my car broke down and I need money right away to get it fixed. Or they may say they've been mugged or been in a car accident or need money to pay for bail or to pay customs fees to get back in the United States from another country. They may also pose an attorney or law enforcement official contacting you on behalf of a friend or relative. No matter what they say, what you say, they always have an answer. If you say, well, you don't sound like yourself, they may say, well, I was hurt in the accident, my nose is hurt, and I really can't, talk well. And no matter what the story is, they always need the money fast, and they always want you to keep their call a secret. These scammers might ask you to send money through services like Western Union or MoneyGram, because they can pick the money up quickly in cash and there's no trail. They might also ask you to transfer money to them by telling you to buy iTunes cards or prepaid Visa or other gift cards and give them the card number so that they can redeem the money online. They always use a phony ID, so it's impossible to trace them. And once your money's gone, it's gone. So, what do? Don't offer up any personal information, allowing the scammer to try to profile you during the call. Like, don't say, Jimmy, is this you? And for sure, don't send any money. And during this time of heightened emotion, because that's where they're trying to get you, in a state of heightened emotion, you may forget to try to verify the location of the loved one on your own. Likely he or she is just fine.
Great, thank you for that. For those of you who have just joined us, I'm Jacqueline Isassi from AARP Pennsylvania, and this is a live, interactive call about imposter scams. If you'd like to ask a question at any time during this call, please press *3 on your telephone keypad. Again, that's *3. This will connect you with an AARP staff member who will note your name and question and place you in the queue. The sooner you press *3, the sooner you will be online with our guests. We do have a question from a dial-in caller here. We are going to go to Sandra in Philadelphia. Sandra, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm with you. Hold on. Hello?
Hi, Sandra. Go ahead. What's your question?
I'm down now.
Sandra, are you there? All right. It seems we've been disconnected with Sandra, but she did want to know about the Fraud Watch Network and how old you had to be to join the Fraud Watch Network. Kristen, I'm going to turn to you to respond to that.
Thank you. That's a very good question. You can be of any age to join the Fraud Watch Network. We welcome people of all ages, and you don't even need to be an AARP member. To join the Fraud Watch Network and to sign up to receive bi-weekly email alerts telling you about the latest frauds and scams, all you need to do is go to aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network, that's all one word, and click the button that says sign up here. You can give us your name, your email address, and your zip code, and that's all you need to do to sign up to receive those alerts every other week, letting you know what the latest and greatest in scams are.
Great, thank you. That's Kristen Keckeisen, AARP's Fraud Watch Network National Campaign Director. We're also joined today by Lydia Hernandez-Velez with the Philadelphia, she's the Philadelphia Deputy Managing Director for Aging, and also joined by Jennifer Spory, Assistant Director, Older Protective Services with the Philadelphia Corporation of Aging. I'd like to turn to Lydia to see if she might be able to speak to us about how many Philadelphians have been targeted or fallen victim to scams in the past year.
Although I don't have the absolute number, it is significant, especially in folks who are isolated and feeling very disconnected and not in a network where they can check on what's going on and how to connect with the right services. So it's really important to reach out to folks and say, there are services, there are people who can listen to your story and connect with you. First and foremost, PCA, the District Attorney's Office, the Police Department, and the Aging Network agencies such as CARI and Senior Law Project and Community Legal Services to enable you to connect with the right information that'll get to the situation and perhaps not get you back your money, but at least give you the information you need to stop that from going on forward.
Great, thank you. And Jennifer, Lydia mentioned PCA. You're with PCA. Could you share with us some of the common scams you've been hearing about in Philadelphia?
Sure. We have a financial exploitation prevention task force where there's many different people throughout the city that are on it, and we talk about the sweetheart scams, affinity scams. A lot of them are online through Facebook and Match, but still I think the lottery scams where, you know, send me the money for the processing fees, and we've got people that are losing hundreds of thousands of dollars. So those are two of the biggies. I could go on and on.
Great, thank you. Yeah, it's very true. Scams are abundant and ever evolving, and we hear all the time about how folks of all ages are affected by scams. I think that's why the AARP Fraud Watch Network is so critical as an education initiative that is free, available for everyone of all ages, regardless of whether they're an AARP member or not. Kristen, could you cite that, that URL for the Fraud Watch Network again for folks?
I'd be happy to. It is aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network. That's aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network, where you can go to sign up to receive your email alerts.
Very good, thank you. If you're just joining our call, I'm Jacqueline Isassi with AARP Pennsylvania, and this is a live telephone town hall brought to you by AARP to talk about fighting fraud and imposter scams. This is an interactive event. If you'd like to ask a question or share your story or your experience, please press *3 now on your telephone keypad to be connected with a staff member who will note your name and question and place you in the queue. The sooner you press *3, the sooner you'll be on the line excuse me, with our guests. I'd like to ask you folks that are on the line a poll question. We have something set up here. Have you been the victim of a fraud or scam, including suspected identity theft over the last year? Use your telephone keypad by pressing 1 for yes or 2 for no. Again, the question is, have you been the victim of a fraud or scam, including suspected identity theft over the last year? Press 1 for yes or 2 for no. While we wait for the polling results, let me take a moment to encourage you to join the AARP Fraud Watch Network and receive our email alerts about the latest scams. You can go to www.aarp.org/Fraud Watch Network to sign up and receive information on how to protect yourself and share your stories on our scam tracking map. I'd like to turn to the councilmen at large who are joining us today. They were kind enough to host a hearing earlier today about financial abuse and fraud prevention, and I'd like to ask you to just speak to our audience about that and what were your key takeaways from that discussion.
Well, I thought it was, this is Councilman Taubenberger. I thought it was very, very enlightening and educational, particularly for me. We knew, or I personally knew, that this existed and it was rather large, but I didn't know how large, and I didn't know many times family members were involved. And I also found how reluctant people really are about talking about this, and they really shouldn't be, because with their knowledge to others can help prevent crimes in the future. The more we know about this, and this is one of the things as chairman that I wanted to bring out in the hearing, will we come up with an absolute answer to end this? No. But we can educate ourselves and educate the public at large, and particularly our seniors, which I'm very proud to be one of them, and to what this works, how this works, why do they call, and how do they call, and what motives do they use. And then just thumbing through your book here from the Fraud Watch Network, it's excellent. I mean, it really gives you a playbook what these folks may be doing, and they're sharp. They're like professional baseball players or football players. They do this every single day, so they can outmaneuver most any of us. The more we know about them, the better we will be able to be in defense. Thank you.
Perfect. Councilman Green?
Yes, I would just like to echo the comments made by Councilman Taubenberger. The Fraud Watch Network is an excellent way to protect yourself, to get tips and resources that are free to everyone. But also, I want to encourage people who are listening that if you've been the victim of some type of fraud, or if you know others who've been the victim of fraud, don't be afraid to speak up. There's so many other people that have probably gotten into the same situation, and too often people feel that, how can I get in this situation? How can I be so foolish? I can't tell my loved ones, my nieces, my nephews, my cousins that I got into this situation. But by you telling your story, you can help so many other people that feel just like you. And as the council member said, the people that are doing this fraud are professionals. They're just like the professional football players and baseball players and people who are attorneys or doctors who practice their craft every day. So don't be afraid. I encourage anyone that's been involved or been a victim of any type of financial fraud to please speak up. Don't feel that you may be foolish, because many people have gotten caught in the same situation, and these professional scam artists prey on people, and they're counting on you being silent so they can prey on other people. So please speak up.
I can't reiterate again what Councilman Green said about speaking up, because that's how we learn. These folks do this, as the councilman said, every single day. They're professionals. But what motivated me personally to go forward with this was the personal knowledge I had in that somebody had tried to call my wife, to actually start the basis of fraud, to get her to do something. It was basically that her brother was caught in an accident, and the person that hit the car needed money, and they needed it right away, because the other person was there from the caller, said, he has a gun and I don't know what he's going to do. Well, for a short period of time, we thought the whole thing was real until we uncovered it was not. But the fact of the matter is, anyone can fall for it, and that motivated me to speak up, and others should come forward too, because the more we know about them, the better we can do to help and protect ourselves, spreading the word. Thank you.
Solid advice, and we're very thankful for your support on this issue. I'd like to take a call from a listener. We have Anna on the line with us with a question about Publishers Clearinghouse. Anna, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead, Anna. What's your question?
I get a lot of mail from Publishers Clearinghouse, and everybody said, "Oh, don't bother with them. They're nothing but a scam." And I want to know if it's true, if it is a scam, or if I could continue being with them.
All right. So Anna's question is about Publishers Clearinghouse. Is it legitimate? Is it a scam? What are things that she and others should be looking out for? Would anyone care to answer that?
Hi, yeah, thank you. This is Kristen. That's a very good question. The Publishers Clearinghouse itself is not a scam. It's certainly possible that, they do give out prizes, they do give out awards, and so that itself is not a scam. However, there are many other scammers out there who may call you and pretend to be the Publishers Clearinghouse, or who may say that you've won some other kind of a prize, maybe a lottery that you don't remember entering, maybe some sort of a sweepstake prize, and they are so excited for you. They are telling you that you've won $100,000 or maybe even $1 million. There's just one little thing. They need you to pay the taxes in advance, or they need to pay you some sort of a fee to get this prize, these prize winnings. And the truth is, there is no prize. This is a scam. If you are asked to pay any money to receive your prize, it is a scam. Just remember that. And what these scammers are doing, as the councilmen have said, they're professionals. They know how to get you excited. They know how to get you, as the scammers say, in the ether, where you're in this aroused emotional state and you're willing to believe them, you want to believe them, and it sounds very simple and very easy. Anytime you start to feel you get that kind of a solicitation that you've won a prize, and you start to get that very excited feeling, remember this. Take a step back. Take a deep breath. And don't make any kind of decision until you have a good understanding of what it is. And if they're asking you for money to get your prize, it's a scam.
Great. Thank you, Kristen. Councilman?
And just to follow up on that, one of the reasons why, again, I had the hearing was something that my son, who is a Pennsylvania State Trooper, told me after I spoke to him about what happened to us personally. He had said, and I'll relay the story because once again we can all learn, a retired principal in the suburban school districts got a call, very excited that he had won several $1,000s, and there probably was a need where this is just a perfect thing. It may have been around the holidays. Oh, what a great thing, I can give this gift. And he was so excited, and his what he had to do for the scam artist was write down all his banking information. They didn't want a fee from him, although many times that's possible. They wanted his banking information so they could, as quickly as possible, wire him the money. He then goes to the post office with the card marked out and then the information inside the envelope, and the postmaster said, "Sir, this is a known scam artist. They are out to get your money. Do not send it." Well, he didn't send it, but he was still so excited about what the man said on the telephone that he went home because he kept their number. He called them again, and he said, "I'm sorry, I was told by the post office that this address is no good. Please give me another address." They gave him another address. This time he got it in the post box. No one said anything, and he lost several $1,000s to these scam artists. So be alert, be careful, do not let your emotions get the better of you, and most things are too good to believe. If you didn't enter the contest to begin with, how did you win it? Anyway, but the more we know about this, the better off we are.
Very true. Thank you so much. We do have a question here about the possibility for scammers to use the phone book to victimize you. Can anyone speak to that? Any thoughts on the different tools that are out there that scammers are using to victimize you?
Well, I'd have to say one that I would know right away, and using the phone book, there is such a thing that used to be made, and even if they're out of print, they might still be current enough, where you get what's called a reverse directory, and you get the telephone numbers by address. So you have Mrs. Smith's number and telephone number right next to you, so you can easily use that and make it that you're very knowledgeable about the person's neighborhood. In reality, you're not. But the fact is that you have the reverse directory, and you can say at 1121 Bingham Street that you know the person that lives at 1123 Bingham Street, and their name is Jones, and they were delighted with your service, or they were delighted with whatever you were selling, or they also won a prize. And they make you, what they do is they break down the barriers that you normally would have. They do this every day. They practice. I learned something today at the hearing because I happen to speak a foreign language. I speak German. And we had spoken about at the hearing about the fact that some people might talk in another language, not English, and it's the actual language that you knew as a child, or you have come from Italy or Spain or Puerto Rico or anywhere, and all of a sudden your comfort level is lowered in the sense that, oh yes, this person must be good. And I thought about it myself, and I'm a German speaker. If someone were to call me in German, my obstacles, my walls, my door would be a little wider open, a little lower wood for the walls, because you feel camaraderie with them. And people want to be liked, and they like people that are similar to them, and it just really works. I never had thought about that, but it could really work. So be very careful of all these things. They want to put down the barriers that you would normally have in your interaction with humans every day. They want to make you feel very comfortable, and they're very good because they do it every single day.
Absolutely. They are pros at playing on people's emotions and getting people into a place where they feel comfortable and are willing to share sensitive information or even send money. So it's really important for folks to stay vigilant, and a little bit of cynicism isn't a bad thing. I do want to take a question from one of our callers or listeners. If you have a question or a story you'd like to share, press *3 on your telephone keypad. Again, that's *3. We have a question here from Agrippa. Agrippa, are you on the line?
Yeah, hi.
Hi there, what's your question?
My question is, enhance what you guys are doing already, because how we look at telephones today has changed. There are seniors out there that will get these calls and don't have any resources other than, I'm not all bad. Design something that makes it simple here to be able to push a prompt to, so some investigator can key in on the call right away.
Okay, so it sounds like the question is about how technology is changing and these scams are ever evolving. What should people be thinking of, and what remedies do we have to catch people who are scamming folks? Councilman?
Yes, this is Councilman Green again, and technology is something that's very important, and I think people need to focus on some of the new technologies that we use for information. Many people may think that seniors, or as my father would say, seasoned citizens, are not using the internet or not using Facebook. Well, that's not true. Many seniors are using the internet and Facebook and other type of social media forums to communicate with their grandchildren or other friends or other neighbors, people that may have moved away. And so although these frauds are coming through the phone, they're also coming through the internet. And because it's coming through the internet, people are reading this information. And so people, just like people used to say, well, I saw it on TV, so it must be true. Some people have the same perspective that if I read it on the internet or someone sent me an email, it must be true. So the same type of techniques that we're talking about in being somewhat cynical about information, if they're asking you to pay something or send information regarding your financial information, as Councilmember Taubenberger did and talked about in reference to his situation with his wife, you need to be very careful when they're asking you via an email, via post to Facebook, saying, please send some information, please send me your social security number or your bank account so that way you can win this prize or this lottery, this gift. Anytime they're asking you for information like that, you should be very careful. So we need to make sure that we're not only using these techniques when someone calls you through the phone, but also when they send you a message through Facebook or the internet as well.
Very good. Councilman
Very
Taubenberger?
quick, because it goes right into what Councilman Green had said. He referenced the situation that happened to my wife. But I just thought about it as we were talking, and these things open up ideas. The person that called my wife had called previously and just hung up because on my wife's voicemail, it says, hi, you've reached Joanne. So he calls back and says, hi, Joanne. So once again, he made that familiarity situation, breaking those barriers down that you normally would have, like, who are you? But wow, he must know me. He knows my first name. He probably was talking to my brother. That's what the whole thing was about. So breaking that down, they're doing their homework. They do this every day.
I'd just like to add that they do look at Facebook, and then they get names of family members. It's not just voicemails on the phone, the internet. But a good prevention strategy for that is if they are calling you saying, you won this prize, ask them to send you something in writing, or get a phone number and you can call them back. You know, if you're feeling pressured and they're saying, come on, you got to get this now, just wait. They can wait. So that's my take on it.
That's a great tip. Thank you for that.
And just a few more tips about online safety. First of all, as I said, Those scammers are out there trolling Facebook. Make sure if you're using Facebook or other kinds of social media that your security settings are set so they're very private, so only your friends can see the things that you post. If you don't know how to do this, maybe ask a family member who's internet savvy and knows what they're doing. That's very important so people can't see your personal information, like your birth date, like your hometown. All of those things can help them to profile you and target you. Then also, watch out for those emails, what you call phishing emails with a PH, phishing. They may look like they come from your bank. They may look like they come from your internet provider, and they all want or your credit card information. And they may not be personalized. They may say, "Dear card holder, we need your information." Whenever you see those types of things, there will be clues about what they are. There'll be misspellings possibly in it. The email address will be a little bit different, maybe one letter off from your bank's email address or your credit card's email address, and they will all want your information, like your credit card number, like your social security number. Do not give them anything. They should have that information. Why are they asking for it? It just, if you stop to think about it, it doesn't make sense. So if you actually think there's a possibility that it might be your bank or your credit card number, go ahead. Don't answer the email. Don't respond if it's a phone call. Go ahead and verify that independently by calling a phone number that's either on your credit card statement, your bank statement, whatever it is, and call them and ask what it is, if there is a problem at all. And I guarantee you, almost 100% of the time, there's not a problem. They're scammers and they want your money.
Great, thanks. And if you guys could hear the sirens in the background, that's a sounding of the alarm on this issue. So clearly, frauds and scams are a scary topic and something to pay attention to. So if you're not hearing alarm bells going off in your head, you're not paying attention. We do have a question here from Pamela about text scams. Let's go to Pamela on the line. Pamela, are you there?
Yes, I am. I have some information about a couple scams that I was involved with.
Well, please share your story with us, Pamela.
Okay. Army?
Go ahead and share your story.
Okay. One of the first scams that I came across is a company called Premium Tech Support. They claim they are with Microsoft. They are not. Because what they'll do is they'll charge you a fee to put something on your computer to protect it, but that goes through India. And Microsoft has never heard of these people.
Great, thank you for sharing that.
And there's another one too that I came across.
All right, let's hear some responses to that and maybe some insights from our panelists.
I would have to say that one of the things that came out again at the hearing, and the things that I have picked up over time as being the chair of the Aging Committee and just as a human being, so many of these scams come from overseas. So they're not even in American jurisdiction. They could be even, the fellow that called me or called my wife had an area 215 that looked like he was from Philadelphia or the near suburbs. And in the end, he probably wasn't. He was probably in the Caribbean, he was in Europe, he was in Africa, he was probably anywhere but the United States. So it makes it even harder for people to stop them. They know this business very well, and I've said it before, I'll say it again, they do it every day, so they're using all the precautions. They want to break down your barriers, and then they want to be far enough away that the authorities will have a great difficult time in getting them.
Great. Jennifer?
I'd just like to add that these tech support scams are very real because they're trying to get access to your computer, your IP address, the whole shebang. So the best thing to do with that is, again, say, is there a number I can call? Check with the Better Business Bureau to see if these people are actually really in existence in business, and just be skeptical. The best thing to do is be skeptical.
Absolutely, and if they give you a phone number or a URL to visit online, don't take them at their word. Please go online and check a reputable source for it. Go to the Better Business Bureau. Make sure that that is, in fact, a valid website or a valid phone number to be calling. I'd like to see if maybe Lydia can speak to her experience with some of the scams that she's heard about and if she's had any experience with this.
I think one of the saddest schemes that we've encountered at the Mayor's Commission on Aging is people who get title to a property and transfer it to themselves. So they may be someone who is known to the real owner of the property who may have a cognitive impairment or some other challenge and doesn't realize until something happens that the actual title to their property has been transferred illegally. Several years ago, the city encountered many of those instances, and more precautions have been taken so that when there is a transfer, you get a notice, a letter to say, did you know that this property has been transferred to someone else? But it's very, very sad, especially in Philadelphia, where we have a tendency, Philadelphia is very heavily owner-occupied, and we have a tendency sometimes to have several generations in a household, and people do not take the appropriate steps when there is a death in the family of the titled owner to make sure that the proper paperwork is taken care of and that title is transferred to the appropriate person. So that's a big concern in terms of some of the folks who find themselves in a situation where they thought it was their parents' home and that they had illegally, and in fact they're the only inheritors or the descendants of that person, and then they come to find out that the title somehow or another was transferred to someone else. And there's no paper trail, there's no information other than it's been done, how do I protect myself? And we sometimes hear that. And we always make those referrals to PCA, to the district attorney's office, or to the police department.
So on that note, could you folks maybe share some phone numbers that people can go to if they feel that they have been scammed? I mean, where can someone go to not only educate themselves about the frauds and scams that are prevalent, but also if they've been victimized, where can they go for resources or help to protect themselves?
This is Kristen from the Fraud Watch Network, and I am very happy to be able to tell you that we have a helpline, the Fraud Watch Network helpline, where you can call to ask questions about scams and frauds, if you've been targeted, if you've been victimized, or even if you think you've spotted a scam. Trained volunteers can help you and tell you where to go to report, what to do to try to be made whole, to get back your money that you lost, or in this case a home that you may have lost. They are very knowledgeable about all where to go all across the country, because every city, every state is different. And so if you're calling from Philadelphia, they will help you figure out where to report right here in Philadelphia. They will talk to you about how to prevent yourself from being victimized again, because if you have been scammed, if you have been defrauded, other scammers are likely to target you as well. And so it's important to know what you need to do to protect yourself in the future. And let me give you that number once, and then I'll give it to you again. It's 1-877-908-3360. That's 1-877-908-3360. Call this number if you've been defrauded. Call this number if a friend or family member has been defrauded. It's always important to report. Don't be ashamed or embarrassed. As everybody here on this panel is saying, these scammers are professionals. They know what they're doing. There is no shame in it for you. Call and get help and figure out what to do next.
And that's especially important for the 36% of people who took our poll and said that they have been a victim of fraud or scam. Again, we asked the poll question earlier today. 36% of folks indicated that they have been a victim of fraud and scam. So I encourage you to take note of these resources. And if you haven't been a victim, please do write these phone numbers and these websites down, which will help protect you and your loved ones from falling victim. I'm going to turn to Jennifer and then Councilman.
Yeah, I'd just like to give the Philadelphia Corporation for Aging's helpline number. It's 215-765-9040, and they can give many different resources. Older Adult Protective Services takes reports through that number, Adult Protective Services, and Senior Law Center, Community Legal Services. Any kind of referral can be made through that helpline number.
In addition, this is Councilman Derek Green. I want to provide two numbers to people. The Philadelphia Police Department has a CARE unit, which is Crimes Against the Retired Elderly unit. The number for that group is 215-685-3265. And I'll repeat, this is the Philadelphia Police Department Crimes Against the Retired Elderly unit, or CARE. and the number is 215-685-3265. In addition, the District Attorney's Office has an Elder Victim Witness Coordinator Group, and that number is 215-686-8035. So the District Attorney's Office also has an Elder Victim Witness Coordinator, and that phone number is 215-686-8035.
Great, thank you. Let's go to the lines and speak to Erlene. Erlene, are you on the line with us? Erlene?
Hello?
Hi, Erlene.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Please share your story with us.
Quick story. I almost fell into a snare like that. I had to pay a company, Logitech, to come in and do something to fix something on my computer. The fee was $99.99. About 2 weeks later, I got a call supposedly from Logitech telling me that their computers crashed. Therefore, they had to return to all their clients their fee because they could not render the service we paid them for. So I let them take control of my computer like they had to fix it. To put the money back, he had to check out my name, my address, and all that stuff, and I verified all the information he gave me. When it came time to him to replace the $99.99, he wanted my credit card information. And I had to inform them I did not give them my credit card information. They optioned the money out through my checking account. When I said that to him, his beautiful demeanor changed suddenly to that of someone very nasty. And he said, well, I'll put it back any way I can. Just give me the information to your checking account. Well, needless to say, I'm not giving you my information. So I told him, never mind, I don't want to go forward with the return of the $99.99. Just give it to a worthy I donated to a worthy cause. We have to give it back to the client. We have to give it back to you. I told him, no, it's my $99.99 and I can do with it what I want to. Donate it to a worthy cause or keep it. I don't want it. May I have back control of my computer? Would not give me back control of my computer. So I thought enough to quickly hang up and I called Dell. Dell took over my computer and that fast. They was going through everything in my computer, just trying to get password, trying to get any information they could, going through the history. But Dell shut them down. Dell was a step ahead of them, caught them and shut it down. And we had to get in touch with the FCC to report all of this so that they could keep tabs on this. And I was...
Oh, Erlene, I think we lost you. Thank you so much for sharing that story, and great job catching the scam as it was happening and taking a strong course of action to stop it. It takes just a second, folks, for someone to steal your identity, to steal your information, so it is so critical that we be ever vigilant and ever cynical and questioning to make sure that we are guarding ourselves and our loved ones from falling victim. We mentioned a couple of scams today. We talked about sweepstakes scams. We talked about text scams. Another two common scams that we hear about in the AARP Pennsylvania office is the grandparent scam and the IRS scam. Could anyone speak to that?
The grandparent scam is, like I said, they get the name of the grandchild on Facebook, or they'll call and say grandma, and then the older adult says Johnny, and then they've got the name. And the grandparent scam, another state had a great PSA against like how to prevent this. And they encourage grandparents and grandchildren to set up a password so that when the grandson, alleged grandson, calls the grandparent, then the grandparent says, so what's the password? And if they don't know it, then they hang up. So that was a good way to fight back and hopefully prevent that. The other scam was the IRS.
The IRS
Yeah, the
scam.
IRS is never ever going to call you on the phone. They are going to send a letter. They're not going to send somebody to your house or call you on the phone. It's just it's a simple thing. Hang up the phone.
Great. Lydia, do you have anything to add to that?
I just think, and I've heard stories of people who had very, high-ranking jobs who got caught by the IRS scam because the IRS is very powerful. And so your sense of, oh my God, the IRS is calling me, is overwhelming for some folks. And they're willing to do whatever, okay, I'll pay that tax bill right away, when they really do know they don't have a tax bill in that amount, or if they do have one, it's just not the IRS's operation to call you and demand payment over the phone through a credit card. It's just not what they do. But again, and something that was mentioned in the hearing this morning is sometimes folks have diminished capacity because the brain ages, and so many of the things that you would not have accepted as truth in a prior time in your life suddenly seems plausible for a variety of reasons. And that's the care that people have to have. And really, the shame issue of not telling your family members that you've been victimized just compounds a difficult situation and causes stresses that are not necessary. Call PCA, call the Fraud Watch Network, call the DA's office, the police department. That's what they're there for. They will listen to your story, and PCA is a wonderful resource. They will listen to your story and be able to piece together what has to be done and hold you in respect and knowing that you got caught not by your intention, but by someone who is every day figuring out, how do I get to this person?
Absolutely great advice. These con artists are professional manipulators, and they prey on people of all ages when they're in an emotional state, and there is absolutely no shame in admitting that you've gotten caught up in one of their scams and asking for help, whether it's from a family member or from outside organizations. So I encourage you all to keep that in mind and look for ways and resources that are available to protect you in a variety of scams. We've talked about the sweepstakes scam, text scam, grandparent scam, IRS scam, and again, these folks are professionals that prey on you in a moment of heightened emotional positioning. And another time of year when people are, emotions are running wild and people are really excitable is the holidays, which is right around the corner. I want to turn this next question to Kristen, who maybe can speak to us about holiday scams, because there are several, and what can our listeners do to protect themselves from it?
Well, thank you, and you are absolutely right. Holidays are a time when the scammers are really working hard, and there's a number of ways that they'll scam you out of your money during the holidays. First of all, if you're shopping online, watch out. Scammers develop fake websites that look like a well-known retailer. They might look like Amazon.com. They might look like Best Buy, or they might be offering sold-out merchandise at deep discounts, making you want to go right online and buy it. Most of the time, these fake websites are trying to get your credit card number or other personal information from you. And they'll, basically they'll steal that, they'll use it, you've given them everything they need to get money online. So just remember that clicking the link on a fake website can really get you in trouble. So make sure you're dealing with the real thing by typing in the internet website name yourself rather than clicking on links. Charity scams are also really popular. When you're approached and asked to donate to a charity, make sure that charity is legitimate by checking out the charity's website or Googling the charity's name with the word scam after it to see if any kind of scam alerts come up. You can also go online and check on Charity Navigator, which rates charities and tells you, A, whether they're a real charity, and B, whether they spend the money they raise towards the purpose they say they do. You can also, here in Pennsylvania, check with the Bureau of Corporations and Charities to help determine if it's legitimate. Then finally, there's the gift card scam. What the scammers do is they rifle through a store's gift card rack and they write down the numbers on the back of the gift cards and everything that they would need to redeem that gift card online. Then they start checking those cards, calling the 800 number, checking the card's numbers to see whether they've been activated. The minute that they're activated, that, meaning that somebody's bought it and is getting ready or already has given it to somebody else, they go online and they redeem that gift card and then all the money's gone. So if you're going to buy gift cards, buy them from the retailer, buy them from behind the cashier's desk rather than picking them up from those racks in the store.
Councilman?
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons, thank you for those great tips, and one of the main reasons why we want to have this hearing this time of the year was because of holiday time, because people are in a giving period. It's the holidays, you're having family, friends, grandkids, people you haven't seen in a while, and you're thinking about maybe I should give them a gift or something. And so that's why we thought it was so important of having this hearing at this time, because it is a heightened time of year, people are feeling more festive, but it's also a heightened time of year for these professional scammers that we've talked about, because once again, they are professional in what they do, and they know that people are in a more giving mood, and they're going to use these techniques like gift cards and online retailers and other type of techniques to try to pray money away from you. And that's why it's so important we had this hearing and to get this information out to you, the callers, about being more vigilant regarding financial fraud.
I couldn't reiterate more what Councilman Green has just said. This is Councilman Taubenberger, and we agreed really to do it this time of year because of the emotional time, because people are hoping, maybe they think it's divine intervention that they won that lottery. They can't remember clearly when they played that lottery, but they won now, and they can use the $3,000 or $4,000 that they're promised for little Johnny's Christmas gift. I mean, it's sort of a really, really emotional time of year, and they play on that, and they play on it well. I think one of the great things that was brought up here, and thank you for the information on the gift card. I never thought of anything like that, and that makes sense now too. That's the last time I buy it off the rack. Is also the following. The one thing I think that is in all of our defense is slow it down. Oh, great, I won, and I'm very emotional. Oh, what's wonderful. Did I really play? I'm not sure, but you know what? Let me check. Let me speak to my son, to my friend, my neighbor, and see what. I'm excited. Call me back later, or it's a bad time. Always slowing it down, I think, can be a great defense immediately. Slow it down. Get off the phone. Tell them to call back at a more convenient time, and check out the. Also, if somebody says, "Hey, this is for the needy. This is for young children in Philadelphia that live in poverty." Wow, that could well be, but is it really? And you can check out the charity. I always feel that put something in writing to me, and that slow it down. Get off the phone, which is the best thing, or say, "Hey, I got to check it out," or send me something in writing. Be glad to help you out, but send it in writing. I mean, these are all little tools I think we could use. We also have to practice every day because they're out there and they're practicing, so we should be practicing.
Absolutely, and these are really wonderful tips and bits of advice to learn more and get more access to tips and learn about some of these emerging scams. I encourage you all to join the AARP Fraud Watch Network. You can learn about ways to protect yourselves from common strategies that criminals use. For example, the AARP Fraud Watch Network has compiled information from interviews with cons and have created a Con Artist's Playbook. This is an inside look at how scammers think, which gives you information on how to protect yourself and your family against identity theft and fraud. Again, the AARP Fraud Watch Network is for people of all ages, regardless of your AARP membership or non-membership. You can visit aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork to sign up for our regular watchdog alerts that will give you the inside track on the latest frauds and scams. If you prefer to chat with a person and help you figure out if you've been defrauded or not, or if you want help to determine where to report a fraud or scam, call the AARP Fraud Watch Network hotline at 877-908-3360. Again, that's 877-908-3360. On behalf of AARP Pennsylvania, I want to say thank you to everyone for taking part in today's Teletown Hall on identity theft and fraud prevention. We've been talking with our special guests, Kristen Kackheisen, AARP's Fraud Watch Network National Campaign Director, Lydia Hernandez-Velez, Philadelphia Deputy Managing Director of Aging, Jennifer Spory, Assistant Director, Older Protective Services with Philadelphia Corporation of Aging, and Councilman at Large Derek Green and Al Taubenberger. As we near the end of our call, I want each of you to have a chance to follow up with any questions or share any closing comments with our listeners. We'll start with Kristen.
Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for getting on this call today and thank all of ARP's guests on this call today. So much appreciated. This is such a big problem and it's only getting bigger, and that's why we created the Fraud Watch Network. And this truly is a network. We really encourage you to reach out to your family, reach out to your friends, join the network, share this information, and help make sure your friends and family are protected by sharing these tips, sharing this number during this holiday season. Thank you.
Great. Jennifer?
I would just reiterate everything she just said, but please look out for your isolated neighbors, family, friends, the older seniors, especially through the winter and the holidays.
Thank you. Councilman Green?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. It's great for City Council to be able to partner with AARP and also PCA and all the great partners on this issue. But I would just once again say to the listeners, please don't suffer in silence. If you feel you've been a victim, if you know of a friend who you think may be a victim or is going through some type of fraud, don't be afraid to speak up and don't be afraid to reach out to your loved ones, either your children or grandchildren, and don't be afraid to ask for help. I think too often we get a sense of pride and we don't want to ask for help, but it's not shameful to ask for help because those people look out for you and they want to support you and they have your best interests at heart, especially when you have these scam artists that try and take away your vital resources.
Thank you. Councilman?
I want to thank my colleagues on the Aging Committee, and particularly Councilman Derek Green, who is the Vice Chairman. It's a delight working with him, and collaboration with him in particular is very good because he's always coming up with ideas, one of which was the telephone conference we're doing. I thank AARP and the Philadelphia Corporation of Aging, not only for this telephone conference call, but also so much help you gave us in actually having the hearings. Your resources behind us made this a lot better, and I think everybody learned something. I think you always do. And once again, we said it a couple times, but you know what? I'm going to say it until I'm blue in the face and and I sound like a broken record. These con artists are doing this every single day. So you should also be thinking about it almost every single day of what you would do when they called and being alert for other people that might have difficulty. One of the things in the hearing was he had talked to his a dear friend who now lived in California who was a victim of a con artist. He detected that and actually went out to see her and helped straighten it out and actually got the FBI involved in it because it was something that could have been done that way and was done that way. The more we talk about it with each other, the more collaboration we have, the better off we will be in defense. And AARP and Philadelphia Corporation of the Aging, thank you very, very much. And if there's someone on the line that is not a member, join immediately. It's very important. I did.
Thanks for the plug. Lydia?
Well, I think what I would want everyone to walk away from this session is the resources are there. There are people who know how to help you out, who know and appreciate the opportunity to be of assistance. And so don't be afraid, don't stay in your silence, reach out and get the help that you deserve.
Great, thank you. Thank you all so much for joining us today as guest speakers. We really appreciate the input that you've put in. I also want to acknowledge and thank Raul Andrews, our Regional Vice President, for joining us, and Bill Johnson-Walsh, AARP Pennsylvania State Director, for joining us. I'm Jacqueline E. Sassy with the AARP Pennsylvania State Office. Thank you, listeners, for participating in today's call. We apologize if we weren't able to answer your questions. If you do stay on the line, you'll be able to leave us a voicemail with your question or comment. And we'll be happy to reach out to you after this call. Again, you can obtain valuable information through AARP publications or on our website at aarp.org/fraudwatchnetwork or by calling the Fraud Watch Network helpline at 1-877-908-3360. Thank you and goodbye.